right, well, we're back, hopefully. Sorry about that. You know what's funny? That's interesting. There are download pulses hitting my network. I wonder what that's about. Oh, you know what it is? It's my kid watching a movie. So I've got this app on my phone that lets me see what's going on with my network traffic. And as soon as I opened it, my upload got better. I wonder if it's something about that. I don't know. Like literally, as soon as I got this app operational on my phone, the connection improved dramatically. Should be number 3. Yeah. Okay. So sorry about that. We're back. Tell your kid to knock the F off. No, I don't think so. I think she can. It's not that. I mean, but it's just interesting to see a download, like a movie streaming in packets. Like I almost kind of want to show you guys this. I've never seen this before. You guys can see that's my network. I don't think you can see any private information on there. Anyway, so, but yeah, I mean, it was just like the upload was, and then as soon as I got this app running, popped right back up. No idea why. Maybe it was just like something was stuck, you know, something like that. Anyway, we were talking about dry martinis, to those of you who remain. Time to hack. So what were we saying? We were saying that, let me try to get my train of thought back. Oh, what's the app? Well, it comes with it goes to the router I have. I got this Nighthawk router. It's the Asus app, whatever it is. Yeah, basically, the dry martini doesn't, why you stir and why you shake? So it's for pretty much visually aesthetic reasons. And by the way, is it very echoey in here? I can put up some sound deadeners next. That could be like our next move, because it feels a little spacey. Yeah, and so it tends to be that drinks that are, you want to shake things that have fruit juices in them, because they're cloudy, and because shaking them, and because if you, let me put it this way, if a drink doesn't have fruit juices in it, and you shake it, then you're going to wind up with, a cloudy drink. It didn't need to be cloudy. You could have had a perfectly crystal clear luminescent drink, but now you've got a cloudy drink because you chose to shake it. And it's just that on the balance, you're going to want to have that drink be clear. The other side of that is that drinks that have fruit juices in them, soury drinks, citrusy drinks, typically, because there's not a lot of fruit we use that's not somewhere on the citrus spectrum, they benefit from aeration. It helps that. Something about that oxygen gets in there, and it helps that flavor express itself and taste more like what you expect it to. If you stir you can do a swizzle. But, a stirred, turn down the high ranges on the microphone, Chaucer. Okay, that's getting technical. If you, you could. If you were to stir a daiquiri, for example, it's not going to have the same lift and texture that a normal daiquiri is going to have. It's still going to be a good drink. It's just not going to be what you, it's not going to be the drink I would want it to be. It could be a better drink if it was shaken. And it just sort of works out that it falls along those lines. The only drink that there's any kind of real debate about this is the Martini. That's entirely because of a single scene in one novel in Casino Royale when he orders a drink he invents on the spot called a Vesper. And by all accounts, by the way, there's a lot of apologism about this drink too. A lot of people say, "Oh, he shakes it because that would bring out the poisons that may or may not be present," or he shakes it to increase the level of dilution because, and that would be fun. We could do that actually. I go get my scale real quick, and we could do some tests here. That's a great idea. I think I will do that. But he shakes it to increase the dilution level, so that he doesn't get drunk as fast, so that he can drink more and look drunk. Well, first off, I don't think that's true. I mean, I haven't read any James Bond novels, and I don't think that anybody has... I've always asked people, great, cite, please give me the page number where he says that. They don't. Or there's any reason at all for why he shakes this martini. And further, the character of James Bond is sort of an unrepentant alcoholic. I mean, he's just not in good shape at all. I don't think that stretching his consumption is a part of his plan. He shakes it because he has bad taste, says the guest. That's for being the new Bond girl from Casino Royale, which inspired the drink. Yes, yes, he names it after her in the film, in the book. Just put the cardboard back. I think it's fine. What cardboard? You could also turn on the high ranges. Oh, you mean all the cardboard in the other side of the room? Yeah, maybe. Put the cardboard back. To be defiant. Yes. Actually, you know, we take it for granted that Ian Fleming knew how to mix a drink right. There's no reason to suspect that he did. I mean, he liked to drink, but, you know, I know a lot of people who love to drink, couldn't mix a drink for their lives. So I think that actually it just comes down to the case. It's more of a silver tongue kind of thing. You know, it's what Ian Fleming said, so that is what is true. So, you know what, guys? I'm going to run and get my coffee scale. This will literally be a 30-second break. I'm just going to run up the stairs real quick. I will be back super fast. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. I got the things I needed. You know, it just didn't occur to me that this would be a fun thing to do here, and we can do it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stir a martini, and I'm going to weigh it as we go, and then I'm going to shake one, and we'll weigh that too. We'll put the same amount of ingredients into each and see which one comes out heavier. Whichever one's heavier, you're gonna. I mean, what is the difference? That's the water, right? So, a mixing glass, a few drops of water in there. Oh boy, did I forget a jigger? I have this one. What do I got on here? Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to build this in a little bit of the wrong order because for the purposes of something like this, I tend to work. I like to build things for TV the wrong order if I have my druthers because I'm working pretty slow and I'm vamping and talking to you while I go. So, actually, let's do both at the same time. What do you guys think? All right, so. Get that out of the shot. That's a little weird looking. Okay, we'll go to the close-up here real quick. So, I mean, not really super duper close, but we have a sort of close-up here. 2 ounces of London Dry gin into there. And 2 ounces of London Dry gin into there. So now I've got options. I brought about several vermouths. And I think after our vermouth stream the other day, the vermouth I would be the most interested in with going here is this Dolin Blanc. But maybe the dry. See, I don't really like things too dry. I have a bit of a sweet tooth. If I'm going to make this for me, and let's assume I am, I'm going to go with either the Martini and Rossi Bianco or the Dolin Blanc. But I think I like the Blanc better. Let's go with the Blanc. Okay. And where's the 1 ounce pour on that? Okay, so that's the second line. It's the first time I've used this sugar. And that was a touch heavy. And since we're doing this, normally I wouldn't care, but since we're doing this kind of to science, I like a 2-to-1 ratio, by the way. 2 parts gin, 1 part vermouth. So that's 1 ounce of my vermouth. And an ounce of vermouth. I forgot to go to the close-up, guys. I'm getting used to this tech directing. You know that in the States, we call the job, you know, I've done this job professionally. Limited amounts, but sort of. But the job of pushing the buttons to pick out which cameras go into TV, that's called the tech director. In the UK, they call it a vision mixer. And when I went over there on a job to be a tech director, thankfully I'm pretty smart with context clues. I didn't embarrass myself too bad when people kept talking about the vision mix. And I was like, what? The vision mixer? Where is your PA? I don't have one since, you know, Corona. But, and I should have had a bar spoon. Didn't I grab one for myself? Oh, no. I meant to go get one from upstairs. That's okay. Hold on a second, guys. They're right here. Just over. Oh, which spoon to use? I guess these are all off of this. Almost a professional, guys. And I like a little dash or 2 of orange bitters in my martinis. So I've got 2 ounces of dry vermouth, 2 ounces of London dry gin, 1 ounce of a Blanc vermouth, and now 2 dashes of orange bitters in each. And I keep forgetting to go to the close-up. And so if, you know, just for the sake of show here. Oh, there goes those bitters. They go right in there. You know, so just for the sake of show, there they are. You see the bitters going in. Sorry about that. So that's the kind of reason why I would fake a shot when I'm doing it on the regular show, because, oh, I forgot. So I'm thinking about this in order. We should do the stirred one first, and we should do the shaken one second. And I hope you guys can take notes for me. Dig the Live, this isn't the later filming where you're already buzzed. Those are some of my faves. Well, stick around, man. We're just getting started. Ice down here. All this ice. I left my freezer open, or off actually, for a couple of days, and my ice kind of got screwed up, unfortunately, so now I've got to kind of chip it apart. Might want to watch, who knows? It's 1 drink, the rest of this will go back in. This one away too. That one away. And this will be another drink. Split there. Oh, perfect. That's the only thing that would be better is if I could really. There. Okay. 2 very nearly equal bits of ice. Okay. Put them all away. All right. For our stirred martini, and I'm very lucky I didn't just crack some glass. We're going to crack all of this in. Yeah. Okay. Got my ice in. Tricky to get over here. I hope that's on the shot. I can't really tell. Ooh, exciting. You'd be surprised though. They're pretty boring when they're not moving, aren't they? Okay. So that is our stirred martini. One chilled glass. Some ice right there. And I'll put it right here on my scale. On. Okay, 0 grams, teared out. And away we go. Okay, so that comes out to, I mean, exactly 120 grams of liquid. So there it is. And we'll set that aside. Get it out of the show for the minute. Dry off some things here. So now for our shaken martini, which has been patiently waiting for some ice. Let's put some ice in there. So what happened here is that I left this out and now it's kind of tempered. And it doesn't want to shatter. That's like the trick. It's got to come right out and get cracked. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Get my sugar here. Given what I know about mixology, how do I feel like I would do in a meth making situation? I mean, not very well. They're not related fields. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. It's a common misnomer that a person who knows how to make cocktails knows how to make some meth. Common. All right, so we put our glass back on there. Zeros right away, so the glassware is exactly the same. And we're gonna double strain. Ooh. Use the clean one, for fuck's sake. Go to the close-up. Here we go. Okay. So, I mean, first things first, let's just talk about the look of these two drinks. Right? You see what I'm talking about between cloudy and clear. Secondly, although there's a big difference in the wash line, that is only a 5 gram increase in liquid. 5 grams. 5 milliliters of water is what that means. 5 milliliters of water, that's not enough. I mean, I don't think any human being can tell the difference. And in truth, I can't imagine that there's anybody, you can't justify some strategic, oh, well, he does that because, you know, kind of thing. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. I always garnish my martinis with a lemon twist. And now maybe Bond thinks, you know, you could have an imperfect hero, right? He doesn't know. He, of course, thinks, not being a very smart guy, because he's not, he's just sort of like, he's a brute, he's just some brute murderer guy. He thinks that makes a big difference. He tells himself that, but I don't, that's like wheels within wheels. Do we really think that that's where Ian Fleming was at? So here we go back to the close-up, and then Do a quick little twist here on each. Watch, you guys are gonna be disappointed. I get a little spritz. I don't know how much that shows up on camera, but without the macro lens, without the without backlight, you know, you're not gonna see a whole lot. People always ask me, like, how do you get your lemons to do that? I will say there's a little bit. I mean, I do kind of really put some oomph into that. And I mean, you can even hear it actually, because these are nice fresh lemons, but it's not like there's a, it just showed. You saw it. Yeah, I mean, you'll see it, but I don't think you're going to see it quite the same as when we have like the spotlight shooting through it. I mean, we set those up, you know, it's not, that doesn't just happen. So now the real clincher here, which one tastes better? And I got to tell you, just from my perspective, I'm looking at these. This one looks nicer. It's clear. It's pretty. I mean, this one looks a bit, doesn't look bad, but I mean, if you look at them side to side, you say, what's wrong with that one? That one kind of looks a bit like swamp water. A lot of people say that they want that sheen of ice across the top. I think that's particularly true when you're talking about a vodka martini, which this is not. It smells unbelievably good. Just that fresh lemon. It's very round. Maybe the Blanc was too sweet, actually. I don't mind. I like it a lot. It's a lot. I haven't done it this way, honestly. The Blanc is a lot less dry than I'm used to, and I like it quite a bit. It's very refreshing and easy, and like very, it's not overpowering in its juniper piney punch. It's nice. It's very round drink. It's not sharp. I know it sounds stupid, but I think if you've had a martini, you know what I mean. That's lovely. And now the shaken one. I mean, I don't know if I can, I don't know that I can detect a difference. 5 milliliters is a really small amount of water to have there be. That's literally what the difference is, 5 milliliters of water. To the degree that I can detect a difference, I mean, it might be psychosomatic. I do think this one has just less flavor. It's just a little bit more wet, a little more watered down, a little less, more muted. I'm not sure that that's not in my head. It's really tough to say, especially when, let me rinse out my mouth a little bit here with some fresh water. It's so hard to be objective about some of these things. I mean, it's physically impossible to be objective about some of these things. You are an organic human creature. Yeah, I think it is a little bit more muted. Good call. Add 5 milliliters of water. We can do that. That would be for science. Be tricky to do with the tools I have at hand, but we'll do our best. Actually, we'll use something like this. Guaranteeing a 5 milliliter pour off an open bottle like that. Might hit it, I might not, but if I don't, I'm not gonna be able to take it back. All right. That's one. That's 4.1. 4.8. That's 5. That's it. Right there. Okay. So now we've added the 5 grams of water that we're missing from this, or missing from this to it. We could stir it, sure. Sure. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. This one still has more orange and citrus and lemon notes present, I think. That's subtle. This one comes across as being somewhat sweeter and more orangey than this one. But I still can't say that for sure that that's not just maybe shaking blunts of flavors. This is a very small sample size. You've got one taster, Dr. Doom, and one drink. So I don't know. In this case, maybe. But oh, it should be accurate. This is an accurate scale. It's slow but accurate. I don't. It's for coffee. It's like for doing pour over timed coffee pours. Sith Water Dancer, thanks for sticking to streaming schedule and being on while I'm working, Greg. I don't know why, but having you on has been helping my anxiety with everything, so thank you. Well, Sith Water Dancer, thank you for bellying up to the bar. That's what this is about. I'm trying to, this is, you know, some people do fireside chats. I'm doing, you know, the bar's open. Let's do that. Did you take the temperature of each drink after it was shaken or stirred? I know cold mutes flavor. I could go grab my instant read thermometer. I don't have one on me. You guys are getting this much more scientific than you guys want. But I imagine that by now, well, what the heck? You guys want me to go grab it? I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. So maybe, but this, I mean, there's still a little cloudiness in here, so probably there's a bit of temperature differential. Let's see here. Set this guy to Celsius. Okay. Our stirred drink is a temperature of 3 degrees Celsius. Our shaken drink has a temperature of minus 5 degrees Celsius. So there's a huge temperature differential here. I mean, that's a lot, actually, yeah. So that might be it. It's just colder. And after all this time, after sitting here, I never would have guessed that, to be honest. Interesting stuff there. Definitely more muted flavors. 37 Fahrenheit versus 24. Well, thank you. It's not so short. It's not short. What a neat discovery. Well, look at you, Mr. Science. Yes, yes. Drink OJ cold versus room temperature. What can I do to bring a bit of life to old fashioned? But I'm wondering if there's a good option along the same lines or something I can do to modify the original. What's your spec right now? Occidental. How are you making yours right now? The whiskey jar was the cult of Ardbeg. You have the cult of Orange. How did the Noli Prat compare to Dolan? Long and short was that all of your Dolan Dry and your Noli Prat are pretty interchangeable. Your Martini Ross and Dolan Blanc were pretty interchangeable. Like they're very similar. Mr. Midstream at Orange. I tried an old fashioned without ice. It was different. I mean, you mean poured up, or do you mean made neat, like where there was literally no ice ever touched it? How do you go about choosing new bitters to use and figuring out if bitters will go well with a drink? Hello, microphone. I don't know what that's about, Zeora. I'm hoping it means that my microphone is working well. You just bought Luxardo liqueur and you're not sure you'll like it. Uh-oh. Bourbon, some bitters, crushed brown sugar and demerara sugar with a block of ice from Moldova. Bill! Yeah, maniac. Hold on a second now, Bill. Thanks to you, I'm gonna scroll up. No, but thank you, seriously. Room temp. Yeah, well, Doctor Doom. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's not gonna be good. Mike is in the shot. Yes, that's true. That is unavoidable. It's not the kind of microphone that can be far enough away to be out of the shot. I was just pricing out how much that will cost, by the way, and a lot of money. Bourbon, some bitters, crushed brown sugar or demerara sugar with a block of ice from a mold of home. So, which bitters are you using? Ox, are you using Ango? You could switch up your bitters. That would do it. I love an absinthe rinse or spritz or dash in there. I like a little bit of. Sometimes I'll split. So I mean, you're using sugar, granulated sugar. If I use syrup, so like one thing I might do is if I like a fat 1/4 ounce in an old fashioned, I might split it up so that it's like 2 bar spoons of Demerara and 1 bar spoon of Maraschino or something like that. That's pretty cool. You can throw in some Curacao. Just keep in mind that like Curacao is a touch sweeter than like a triple sec, for instance. So consider that as well. Yeah, some people use the dash of the orange bitters. I am not a huge fan of orange bitters in an old fashioned because you're already getting it from the orange peel. So. Mango bitters currently. Yep, you could definitely try some different bitters. I think that though, if you're really looking to like take it to a different place, I would look at absinthe. I would definitely look at that. That is going to be a big step. Just 1 drop is going to be a big, noticeable step. It's gonna, but it's still in that same family. I mean, you're basically at that point pretty close to making a Sazerac. Other than that, I wouldn't say that you're gonna get subtle variations by switching to different aromatic bitters like Bokers or Bogarts. I think that if you try, you can always try various, why can't my brain connect to the next word? Citrus bitters, like grapefruit bitters or orange bitters. You could try that. It becomes a very different drink then. And then you might want to rethink your spirit of choice as well. Like, is this the bourbon to pair with this bitters? And it's tough to answer that question. It's very personal. One other thought is you can look at a chocolate mole bitters. Those are lovely. I can't think of a time when I've ever used them in an old fashioned, though, to be honest. After your improved cocktail, I do an absinthe atomizer spray for most of my old fashions. Yeah, the improved whiskey cocktail. Well, it's not my improved whiskey cocktail. It is the improved whiskey cocktail, but I appreciate that I get the credit for it a little bit. Chile bitters. Yeah. Let me just scroll up here a little bit and see if I can catch up with what I missed. What the hell do I do with Fernet Branca? Ooh, what do you do with Fernet Branca? Well, my friend. Small things. First off, look at a hanky-panky. I don't have the spec in my frontal cortex right now, but if I'm not mistaken, it's essentially a Manhattan with a bar spoon of Fernet Branca on it, and it's lovely. It is something you use very sparingly, so a bottle should last a while, unless you happen to be, is it Brazilians or Argentina? This is embarrassing. I think it's the national drink of Argentina, is Fernet y Coca, which is Coca-Cola and Fernet Branca. And like in a 50-50 ratio, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the palate for that. I've made that a couple times, like, man, people love this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I think like a little splash of Fernet and Coca-Cola is fine for me. If I had some Coke right here, I would actually make it up for you, but I have no Coca-Cola. So I think that's a great way to do it. The other thing you could do is, too, with a lot of these Amaros and Amari, especially if you are under quarantine and you have the ability to make seltzer. I hope you're making your own. If you're not, that might be something that now that you're stuck at home, you're going to start rethinking. Get yourself, I really like, I have it upstairs. I just got it because my SodaStream from 5 or 10 years ago finally gave up the ghost. But I got the I Drink Mate soda maker. And it's awesome. It makes some really aggressive seltzer. It can really pack in the gas the way my SodaStream never could. And you can carbonate any liquid with it, too. Although they say to stay away from stay away from anything that's too pulpy, because of course if there's pulp, you're going to decarbonate anything as soon as it touches the air. It's just going to foam out. But take any Amaro you have and throw an ounce of it or half an ounce or whatever you're comfortable with in a glass, and then top it up with seltzer, and you've made yourself a nice little spritz. A very it's called the I Drink Mate, as silly as it sounds. It's such a stupid name, but it's called an I Drink Mate, and it uses a slightly different mechanism where there's a special top you have to put on the bottle, and then you put that into the tower, and then it uses the same canisters as a soda stream. So they're under the same pressure. It just works better, as far as I can tell. What, if any difference, is there between sparkling water like Perrier, club soda, and seltzer? So, there's a couple of different potential differences. So first off, like, naturally sparkling water like Perrier, I think is supposed to be, is going to have less CO2. And there's actually a really, Dave Arnold can answer this question much better than me. There's a very archaic system using volumes of CO2, which I forget what he says it is, but it's basically, it's an arbitrary number. It's like, what is the square root of a gross of CO2 dissolved into, it's some like weird thing that they came up with in the 1800s. And so the long and short of it is that there is a maximum, what it comes down to is how much carbonation is actually in that liquid, how much CO2 is punched into there. Yes, it would work for forced carbonating wine or mead, the I Drink Mate, absolutely, as long as there's not like a bunch of pulp. And so what it comes down to, though, is like literally how much CO2 is dissolved in there. And actually, I discussed this with Dave Arnold on Twitter because I had a plan. I was going to carbonate drinks in mini champagne bottles by putting a measure of dry ice into them before corking them, before capping them, with like a bottle capper. And basically what we figured out, he did some math and figured out that, it's such a fine line, the measurement, and of course your CO2 your dry ice is evaporating the entire time you're trying to weigh it, that like if you're a gram and a half over, you've made a bomb, and if you're a gram and a half under, you have not carbonated anything. So it was like an extremely fine line, and you're trying to measure something that's evaporating as you're trying to measure it. Regardless, point being, don't do that. But regardless, the first thing is how much CO2 is in it. Perrier is not very fizzy compared to, for instance, the stuff that I'm making out of my I Drink Mate, which is just crazy. It like just boils when you pour it into a glass. And they're all going to have their own level of carbonation. I think that, honestly, for the way that you use carbonated water in drinks, you just want as much as you can get. Because it's going to be diluted with all of the other ingredients that you're adding, right? So, and Perrier is always super fizzy for me. Yeah, it just loses it quickly in the glass. So, Thrace Fulton, I don't know. I mean, that could also be regional. Because with Perrier, we're talking about local, I think, anyway, local bottlers. I could be wrong. So, and then I get some stuff from Europe when I say, oh, seltzer. And because in Germany, I think the seltzer is a place famous for its natural carbonated water. And so I think that they actually over there, when people say seltzer, they mean mineral water. They don't mean forced carbonated water and CO2, the club soda. So it's a little regional. When I say it, unless I specify differently, all I'm talking about is forced carbonated water. That's it. I'm going to move this off in front of me. Out of the way. Could be my alcohol ignorance, but what would go well with tea? Hot, preferably. Ooh, black tea. Yeah, Captain Lieutenant Tetzlaff. Seltzer is mineral water over here. Yep. What about tonic? Let's answer that question, because I'm more equipped to answer that than the tea question. Sorry. Tonic is... I brought this out specifically because it's kind of in the news on a weird sideways thing. Tonic is... And see, actually, it's funny. Q-tonic. Put this in the close-up right now. I hope this is showing up, but right here it says 4.5 gas volumes. No, it's probably not. It's not on autofocus, and it can't be. But hopefully you can read 4.5 gas volumes. That is that archaic system of measurement that I was talking about. I don't know what that actually means. It just tells you how carby it is. So tonic water is carbonated water with quinine added traditionally. In this case, it is carbonated water, organic agave, citric acid, quinine, and natural flavors. Carbonated water, organic agave, citric acid, quinine, and natural flavors. And it comes from the British soldiers in, I think that it was in use in like the late 1800s. That's where it comes from. During the Raj, this was used as an anti-malarial for British soldiers. Why? What about this is anti-malarial? Well, actually, the malaria is a parasite, not a bacteria or a virus. And quinine can be toxic to the malaria parasite. My understanding is that that strain of parasite is no longer the strain of parasite that causes malaria for the most part in the world, and so quinine is no longer effective as an anti-malarial application. However, it's in the news due to some wildly irresponsible tweets by our commander-in-chief touting the benefits of, I think, quinine and hydra something or other in use as treatment for coronavirus. Well, I've done very limited amount of research on this, but I'm going to just I've read up on what even Dr. Fauci has said. It isn't an antiviral, okay? It's an anti-malarial. It is used in malaria treatment, which is a completely different disease. The reason, and the only reason, that they are using it in some places, that they're looking at using it for coronavirus treatment, is because quinine is also a immunosuppressant and anti-inflammatory. And when you have extremely inflamed lungs, they will put you on immunosuppressants, counterintuitively. Anti-inflammatories, quinine can double leg cramps, but they'll put you on immunosuppressants and anti-inflammatories counterintuitively because inflamed lungs cannot breathe. You can't get air, and it's better to breathe than to have an immune system at the end of the day. So they will suppress your immune system a little bit and reduce your inflammation a little bit so you can get oxygen into your fucking blood. That's the only reason they're looking into it. It's not something that directly counters or treats any virus or disease. It is something that can mitigate some of the symptoms of it, and in so doing, allow your body to get better. Now, I got very sick a couple of months ago in February, and although I haven't been tested, I had all the symptoms of corona. And because of a few things, I think it's possible that we in our house, me and my wife, had it. They thought I might have pneumonia. They did an x-ray. I came up just barely negative for pneumonia. My nose swab came up negative for flu. So that plus having all the symptoms that you could have, I mean, it's like, well, okay, I don't know. And they put me on, because I was fucking sick, man. They put me on prednisone, and I immediately was like, well, that's interesting. That's an immunosuppressant. And they said, yes. Not a lot of patients would know that. The reason here is because Meredith is learning a whole lot of mod tools here. Basically, they were saying that there's been studies in the past couple of years that show when you have a disease like the flu that's causing inflammation of the lungs, we're better off getting that inflammation down than doing anything else. So that's what it is. Yeah. Well, Dr. Doom, in that case, if I had it, it was a mistake. So I don't know. I did a short course of it. So it did take me forever. I mean, I've never been sick that long in my life. I was sick for like over a month, 6 weeks. So I don't know. And maybe it wasn't corona. Maybe it was just like maybe some weird virus, another weird pandemic that just went completely under the radar and nobody even knew about it. Anyway, Greg, you seem to have a wealth of experience, much of a bunch of different fields. What have I done before you started the channel? Well, I was never a doctor, so don't take your medical advice from me, that's for sure. Yeah, it was sort of a running joke amongst my friends that I've had every job in the world. I was an editor. I was an editor for a really long time, and during the course of my editing career as a really long time, I was an editor for a number of years. And motion graphics designer a little bit, and I did a little bit of tech directing and stuff in there as well. Find out Greg knows a bit too much about drugs. Prior to that, I was a tow truck driver. I did some, work backwards. I was like a roadside assistance tow truck driver. That did not last very long because my employer was a maniac. He fired me for not towing an old lady's car because your wheel gets stuck and I can't turn the key because the wheel lock is on. So you just put a little pressure on the wheel and then you can turn the key and get the key in and out. She called because she couldn't get her key in or out or start her car. I fixed it on the spot and I was supposed to tow it. I was like, okay, whatever. Anyway, and so we did, so I was that. I worked for a little while in a machine shop doing some riveting and caulking. I've delivered things. I've been the pizza boy. I've been the salad boy. I've delivered the pizzas and the salads. I have worked as a buyer in a pawn shop, although the employer of that pawn shop will tell you it's not a pawn shop because we don't write loans. We just buy things from junkies and resell them. I was a... let me think here. I worked security at boxing matches in Atlantic City briefly. I was a stagehand in Atlantic City. I was in the union building sets and not sets, but when big rock bands would come in and play casinos. Oh, I can tell a fun story about a particular president's casino too. Did you happen to see that salad tosser? No. I'll tell you. I'll tell you two stories now. We're up to two works-related stories at the bar that I have to go back and double back on. So it was like a bouncer and security guy at the boxing matches in Atlantic City. I got to meet Bernard Hopkins in a rather tense moment, and also George Foreman. And boy, man, he is big. He is as wide at the shoulders as I am tall. I'm not joking about that at all. I've never felt as tiny around a human being in my life. He shook my hand, and it was like, whoop, like shaking, like when you shake hands with a baby. That's what it was like. And so I did that briefly. I repossessed cars for a while. That's why I had some tow truck experience and got the job as a tow truck guy. I was a rod man in a land surveying crew. And then, I was explaining that I was a... you met Shaq and had the same experience. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I did a lot of events at the Taj Mahal. I did a lot of work at the Taj Mahal. So I was a stagehand for a while in IATSC local... I forget what 917 is one of them, but that's out of Philly. And then there was the other one. I think it was... not 416. That's just a number that's in my head because I've been researching microphones. I forget what the one is in Atlantic City, to be honest, off the top of my head. I was like a D card or whatever. I was at the very bottom of the list. But, so it was like a gig where, and it was a good gig. I was young. I didn't have any other prospects, and the money was not bad at all. Union job. It was one of those things where, if you put in your time, you can make a career of it. That's the whole idea. Basically, rock bands come in and do concerts in Atlantic City. Or any event. I think I worked for wrestling a couple of times too. When WWE would come in. And they have 18-wheelers, huge trucks filled with boxes of truss and lights and pyrotechnics and amplifiers and speakers and video monitors and cameras. And you need a crew of 1,000 dudes or, not 1,000, but a lot of people to get this stuff off the truck. And they have their roadies, of which there are 10. They direct a local crew, the stagehands, on how to build it. Put that there, put that there, put that there, hoist that, hank that, do. And so it was a couple days, and you build this thing. So we were like Pat Benatar and Weird Al and Aerosmith and Kiss and the Wailers, actually, which was a great story because they tried to buy weed off of me. Not that I had any... They had no cause to believe I had weed. I was the nerdiest little white boy. But... So you were the guy that picked up the brown M&Ms, weren't you? I mean, if they needed me to, sure I was, but mostly I just walked around with a wrench and put things together. I did get to deliver Pat Benatar gets flowers before every show. I was the guy who got picked to deliver her flowers for some reason. But yeah, so and I was a production assistant too. I was also a production assistant at this place, Michael Schramm Company. I've talked about a few times, where I helped them make food commercials. And probably a few other jobs too. I mean, I worked parks maintenance all throughout high school. I was a guy working in the parks. It's so funny. Sometimes I talk about it. It's like, that sounds like the 70s. It wasn't. It was the 90s. But they'd be like, yeah, you're 15. Here's the truck keys. Drive. You know. Taj Mahal story. Yeah, sniff theory, exactly right. How did you get into such a cool line of work? Which one? You talking about the stagehand stuff? Hunt Buck? I'm going to scroll through the chat here for just a second. Oh, we're down to 174. What happened? We lost everybody. They want to see me mix more drinks, huh? Well, first off, from Texas with love, the answer is yeah. if definitely, like I was always my philosophy. If people ask me, do you know how to do something, I would say yep, and then I would go ahead and learn it. My dad worked with racehorses, so I'd feel very confident telling people that I know how to work with racehorses. I just ask him for, what do I do? I did work at Aeration State Park. Yeah, in high school. I worked at Aeration State Park as I did parks maintenance, but I also was just a volunteer in the kind of recreation town there. I did it as like an apprentice blacksmith a little bit, and I did that mostly because there were some girls I was going to high school with who were also volunteers there. Come for the drinks, stay for the Greg. Greg is great. What drinks do you make for your D&D games? I really don't, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm pretty busy running my games and just keeping everybody like at the table and sharp. Honestly, realistically, between running the game, I don't have time to make a drink while I'm also running the game. Maybe if we're running a really long game, I'll make some drinks at some point. We'll take a break, but it's tough, man. And I also don't really want my players all tipsy. Stagehand work is fun, but also exhausting and poorly paid if you're not in the union. Yeah, Robot loves kitten. That's probably true. I mean, that's the reason I did it. Somebody was like, hey, you can make pretty decent money if you want to take this gig. And I said, okay, that is pretty decent money. As a matter of fact, I left working the production assistant gig to do that. Pork roll. Being tall is awesome until you buy a new pair of shoes. Only incorrect Northern say Taylor Ham. I am a dungeon master. Actually, our last game stream should be in the VODs right below, so you should scroll back a little bit if you're into that. I have not picked up a bottle of Rowan's Creek yet. I really should. How the heck is Greg such a Renaissance man? What kind of game do you run? I'm interested in your setting. It's, well, check out we stream it. We'll be streaming again next week. Unfortunately, I built an entire multicam studio to do it here with everybody at the table together, and we can't, so we're doing it over cams. Have I ever thought about opening my own bar? I would be happy to license my name to somebody else opening a bar. I do not want to open a bar. I don't want to be in the bar business. That's a lot of work. So here's a story. This is a dark story. You guys ready for some dark stuff? So Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. I got a job. Hey Greg, are you available Tuesday to do a 4-hour call? We just need a small crew to come in. We do an annual cleanup at Xanadu. Xanadu is a nightclub, dance club at the Taj Mahal. And I said, sure. I didn't realize it was a holiday, and so I was going to make holiday pay, but like basically everybody on Earth didn't want this job because it was a holiday. And so, I know where Xanadu is. We go to Xanadu, me and a crew of like 4 or 6 people. And they say, you got to have a big, heavy mag light. and your wrench, it was like a union rig. We always had to have an adjustable wrench on our belt. And we're just going to go in and pull out the stage risers. I was like, stage risers? Why are there stage risers at Xanadu? It's a nightclub. Now, stage risers are what you build a stage out of. Unless you have a permanent stage, like in your high school auditorium or something like that, right? When Aerosmith comes in to a big empty room, well, we have these, you have stage risers, these, I forget what we call them, but the legs, basically. And then decks that go on top, and they interlock, and you make platforms, and you can build towers, with Kiss. I mean, it was like 60 feet tall in the middle and stuff like that. Yeah, we got to pull all the stage risers so that the cleanup crew can come in. And I was like, well, why do we need mag lights, flashlights? Well, it turns out that the place where Xanadu is, this nightclub, it was originally built to be an auditorium. So if you can just imagine, sideways, right? Imagine like a Broadway theater or any place or a movie theater where you've got an incline for bleachers, for seats to go on, right? And you got your stage, a permanent stage, down here, and then a drop, and then, levels for seats to go on. They had built it under that pretext. And so they were going to put seats in there. But then I guess the show that they were booking, like the regular headliner, I don't know, there was a change in plans at some point. They said, you know what, turn it into a nightclub. We're not going to have a show in here. Well, how do we do that? Well, you know what, we'll just backfill that void that would be created. We'll just make a stage deck that's flat. Take whatever the top level is, or second to top level of your bleacher rake, whatever you want to call it, the steps for the bleachers, for the seats. Build a stage riser all the way across to fill the void underneath. And we'll make that the dance floor. Okay. So once a year, we've got to pull the risers so that this hazmat crew can come in and clean it up. I was like, why do we have to do that? Well, and now, I don't remember how this was exactly conveyed to me, but I'm going to convey it to you. You may or may not be aware that Atlantic City has a very severe homelessness problem. And down here, we're on the beach, and there's just a real flimsy door between the outside and the inside of Xanadu. It's actually a single door. I was shocked. We walked in off the boardwalk. There was not even like a vestibule. It's just like, one single door, not locked or anything. Apparently, and I think this is a metaphor for a lot of things that I have for years, it was, according to Taj Mahal management, which we know were so on top of things, impossible to keep that door locked. Impossible. And so there was a small town, a colony, living underneath. The building exists, but it's abandoned. There was a town, basically, that lived underneath these stage risers of homeless people. And actually, if you ever go under the boardwalk on Atlantic City, carved out into the sand, there will be like little cubbies and stuff where people live too. So wait, the risers were level with like the middle of the bleachers? How's that stable? I don't know, man. It just kind of was. So, in the middle of the bleachers, there were no bleachers. There was just concrete steps where you would have bolted chairs, right? And they never bolted the chairs in. They just put the stage risers over the top to fix the room and turn it into a dance studio. So we would pull the decks, and out. Truth be told, we never saw anybody in there. By the time we got in to pull the decks, everybody had moved out. Although everybody was telling me, like, yeah, man, like, there's been definitely sometimes on this gig, like, there's people here. I was like, real serious shit. And I was like, this is fucked up. It's really fucked up. And, yeah, it was bad. I mean, there was like, there was like evidence of people like living there under the floor, under the dance floor, under this dance floor, while people, the tourists are like pounding their feet onto like, fucking Christina Aguilera or whatever was popular in the early 2000s. And apparently also, because this is another problem at this place, apparently because the bathrooms were like too far down the hall and nightclubs are dark, people would regularly, like dudes would just like find a corner and like piss on the floor. So like, and stage risers aren't like watertight or anything like that. So you're literally dancing and peeing on the homeless. It was top-notch metaphor. It was real good stuff. Yeah, that's a real day of work Greg did. Anyway. That's how the water went. Yeah. So we pulled out the decks, and then somebody else came in and steam cleaned it and everything like that. And now it's out of business. Yeah, one of the few casinos managed to bankrupt itself. A lot of people give him shit for that. I mean, I think a few other casinos, like, what was it? And he deserves it, but it's actually, like, other casinos have gone out of business, too. It's easy to overspend. They spend so much money on those places. It's crazy. Ever watch the Whiskey Vault channel? Yeah, I'm going to try and get them on this show. Although, if they're watching today, I don't know. I mean, it's got a little dark. I don't know if I'm losing all my potential guests. The other story was about the salad place. Somebody asked me if I was ever the salad tosser. It was like one of those things where it was like a slow day. And they were like, I was like, there's no salads to deliver, so I'm just sitting around waiting to deliver the salads. That's Salad Works. And so they asked me, do you want to learn how to make a salad or run the register? And I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the call to come in. I was hired to deliver salads. I do not want any other job. We can talk about a different kind of salary if you want me to directly interact with customers and such. Anyway, that's a true story. I'm about to make some Irish coffee, but I'm out of Irish whiskey. Going with some scotch instead. See, I'd reach for some bourbon, Evan, if you had it. But yeah, what's scotch? Hey, butterfly lady. Oh, I agree with that, Death. Keep telling us stories. Do you stream at 12 EST each day? Well, I was targeting 11. I was targeting for 11 a.m. and I missed it. I was late. Is it true you curated some drinks for Critical Role? No, but I would be happy to do so. What happened was I made an episode about D&D, and I leaned into what was apparently a name drop of Critical Role, but I went over my head. I'd never even heard of Critical Role in the cold open. So I made my D&D drinks, dropped the Critical Role name totally by accident. Everybody told me, that's a thing. And I had to go along pretending, of course it's a thing. I know that. And so it looks like that, but it's not. It's not. What have you guys got in your pantries? What are you trying to make drinks with? Let me see if I can help you out. Derek Brown's been doing that on Twitter. He's been great at that. If you guys don't follow Derek Brown on Twitter, you should. He is a barman extraordinaire. I'm getting hungry for lunch. All I had today was a bowl of cereal. Moonshine with a peach in it. Is vodka and Coke a thing? I mean, sure. Lord, how do you open Imgerlings? You can add vodka to just about anything, and you're not going to make it taste like anything other than that thing, but with water, or like with a little bit less punch. I've got bourbon, bitters, ginger beer, Diet Coke, and lime. Bars Bazoon, you don't need any help. You are well established. And vodka. My daughter watches Critical Role a lot. It is not my thing. My dad's been sober since I was born. Got nothing to work with here but tea. Oh, you can make some nice tea. Stucul Duplo in gin. I don't know what Stucul Duplo is. Feels like a typo. I had 2 chorizo, egg, potato, bean. Ooh, Andrew. I got Yingling and whiskey. And he sounds like you got Boilermakers over there. But you don't just have whiskey, because you've also, I'm assuming you have something sweet. Like, what do you have? You have honey? Do you have sugar? Do you have Splenda? Do you have tea? If you don't have bitters, you can make some really bitter tea and maybe simulate the bitters that way. It's a little bit different. Maybe a little bitter tea with some cinnamon in it, if you can do that. You can get something a little bit like cinnamon, like bitters. Agave, yeah. A lot of times people are like, well, I got whiskey. And I'm like, well, do you have lemons? Like, what are the other things you have? There's other things in your house. I hope. I really hope. You're digging that bergamot liqueur. Yeah, man, that stuff is great. Disorganized.net. Made an old-fashioned using tea as bitters. I have done that, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's Meredith. I did that at our office. Do you know the bar scene? Any recommendations? Mikey, where are you? It's a big planet, man. Do you accept fan mail to a P.O. Box? I'd love to send you some Estonian gin. I'm an American living abroad. I do have a P.O. Box. I'm feeling weird about publishing it, though. It seems dumb. I feel like that's the purpose of the P.O. Box. Recommendations for how to use chocolate mole bitters. Rascal Dynamic, do you have some rye and some sweet vermouth? Because I love chocolate mole bitters in a Manhattan very much. I would take, my Manhattan spec is 2 ounces of Rittenhouse rye, 1 ounce of Antica Formula vermouth, 2 dashes of Zocollatel mole bitters from the Bitter Truth. Stir it up, pour it, and put a cherry in it. What drink can I make with Everclear? Well, you can add 50% water to it and make it into vodka. What drink can you make with Everclear? You shouldn't. Well, first off, basically, okay, so here's the answer. You can make anything with water that you can make with Everclear. Just use half as much Everclear and add water to it. So if you were going to make a Cosmo, instead of using a 2 ounce pour of vodka, you would use a 1 ounce pour of Everclear plus a 1 ounce pour of water. Your water, for the record, is not going to be as clean as the water at a vodka distillery. So the drink you're going to get is going to be off, and possibly even by a great deal. I'm just scrolling around. You thought that was the purpose of the P.O. Box, Dr. Doom. Yeah, I live in a small town. I'll just type it, If people really want to send me stuff, you can. 053. There it is. That's my P.O. Box. Like your Stimpack shot. Thank you. I like that a lot, too. Notice there isn't any Crown and Caliber watch on today. I don't have any watch on today, actually. I have a bottle of Fernet Branca. Hold on. Some Goldfish. 89A. Why do you want to be that unpronounceable? 89A. 89A, do you have seltzer? Do you have cola? Maple syrup old fashioned. Yeah, that's funny. I used to be all about the maple syrup old fashioned. It's not my thing anymore. I like a Demerara better. Surprised more drinks don't involve orange juice. It seems like an easy ingredient that everyone avoids. The reason for that, JJMan93, is because orange juice is extremely sweet by comparison to other citruses. And it's very easy to overpower a drink. As a matter of fact, there is... Dave Arnold has talked about that and did a lot of thinking about that. He made a drink, I think it's called the Dr. J. But to do it, he had to clarify the orange juice so that it was something he could work with in a cocktail setting. It's just that orange juice is really... It's a lot. It just really takes over. There are drinks that call for it. It's just, is Bullet Rye any good? Bullet Rye is fine. It depends on what it costs in your area. Is it better or worse than your next cheapest alternative? Have you ever had malted rye whiskey? Probably. Off the top of my head, I couldn't answer. I have whiskey, lemon, canned soup, and hand sanitizer. Well, with the whiskey and the lemon, you can make a whiskey sour. I'm assuming you have ice as well. The canned soup sounds like a nice lunch. The hand sanitizer you're going to need later. OG, Old Granddad BIB, other whiskey, gin, currant, black currant. Oh, some vermouth, some seltzers, and some other stuff. Bud you. That's great. You've got a lot of things going on there. I actually consider using mango and apple in my latest batch of mead. I have a new Amsterdam gin, Bacardi Rum Normal. And black. My grandfather liked it. And Kahlua. Oh. Interesting. So I wouldn't pair the Kahlua there with anything other than the Blanc Bacardi. Because I think that you're wasting it in your black or in the gin. Kahlua and gin. I'm trying to think of a drink that pairs those two. Luxardo cherries are delish. Any others you prefer? I haven't been around that much, Max Rider. I haven't had a chance to experiment with all the cherries. It's sort of a content I've planned. Got the Smuggler's Cove books, Allspice Dram, Falernum, and a ton of rum. I think I can figure something out. I'm sure you can, Thrifty Walrus. Good old deionized water. I've got Sokolava, Sake, Don Julio, Slivovitz, rum, port, Ancho-Ray's vodka. Come on, the Chaucer. You got Moxie? Oof, you're set up. You ever experiment with smoking your drinks? I've done a lot of smoke in my drinks. Wow, man, I'm way behind on chat. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with it that much. Have I ever done anything with smoke in my drinks? Yes, I have. I've got a drink called Han Shot First, which is a toast, a tribute to Han Solo. That's pretty smoky. I put smoke into my Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. Those are two that are off the top of my head. There's also, I think probably my best smoked drink is the Smoked Rosemary Gin and Tonic. I don't have any gas in my blowtorch, so I'd probably make one up right now. Camera is drunk. Is it? What's wrong with my camera? Was the focus all over the place? Yes, I do have a video on the smoked rosemary gin and tea. Yeah, absolutely. If Meredith's in the chat, she could find it. It's hard for me to do. Can you ask Barfly to give some special price for your beloved followers? Barfly is pretty affordable stuff, I'm sorry to say. That's kind of the deal. Uh-oh. Bound to happen, guys. Oh, the smoked rosemary gin and tonic, Meredith. Thank you. It's an oldie. It goes way back. That was shot in the living room in New York. Isn't that called a party foul? Agent 403. I didn't know you were staff. Yeah. So, Meredith, you can always, when someone asks for that, and we can trust them, you can type /permit. Is that it? No, it's permit ! I think. Nope. ! Permit. There you go. You've got it. 403. Do your thing. I didn't realize you were staff. 403. Is that what the wrench means? How long will homemade syrups last in those little bottles with the pour top? Well, it depends. Are you working with 2-to-1 simple syrup? Like, is your sugar ratio 2-to-1 or 1-to-1? If your sugar ratio is 2-to-1, they'll last more or less indefinitely. It sort of depends a little bit on like if there's particulates in there and things like that. But a 2-to-1, it's too toxic for bacteria and molds to take hold for the most part. It will crystallize, but you can fix that by reboiling it. But yeah, it should be pretty much, especially if you keep it in the fridge. I mean, I don't actually. I keep those on the counter because I don't have room in the fridge. But if you kept them in the fridge, it should really, really last. 1-to-1s, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, at most. Yes, I did make this bar top. Meredith helped, and so did Stefano. This was a huge piece of raw edge, live edge. You can actually, maybe you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. That's a little piece of where the bark was. Walnut that I cut and planed and spent a lot of time on. I'm not a huge fan because it wasn't wide enough to make the bar top. So there's one piece here and then a narrower piece here that I ripped. Is that a rip cut when you go with the grain? I forget. And I'm thinking that I might want to replace the narrow piece with something like a nice metal drip tray. How long does Oleo Sacrum last outside the fridge? I don't have room here either. That one I would say is probably going to act like a 1-to-1, so not super long time. Yeah, don't put the Luxardo cherries in the fridge. Keep them on the counter. They will totally solidify. When using 2-to-1, do you just use half the amount that you use? No, all my recipes are built around 2-to-1. Everything I do on the show is a 2-to-1 for the most part. Do you have any non-hurricane passion fruit syrup ideas? I made a drink in my Valhalla video, which was a couple weeks back, that used, it was one of the 3 drinks was a flaming moai, and that one had passion fruit liqueur in it, and you could replace that with passion fruit juice. That was a good drink, actually. I was really happy with the way that came out. Pornstar Martini. How do you make it? Octopus? Coctopus? I always hear about that. I keep forgetting that. People keep asking me to do that one. Thank you, Huntbuck. So, well, hungry. Would you make a drink for the PCs in your game? How might you go about that? Do you think those giant tubs of Luxardo cherries would last open? They do. They come with like a plastic lid. That I actually have one on the off side, but my big tub of Luxardo cherries came with like a plastic like Tupperware lid. So I've been using that for years. All your bottles remind me of mine. How would I go about making a drink for the PCs in my game? Well, my Viridian Encore, Viridian Core. Doom Eternal. I haven't played it yet. I think that my first thoughts would be, let's say it's, the PC, so I'm thinking one PC, and I'm gonna think about, well, what's that character's background? What culture does that character come from? And what culture is that culture analogous to in the real world? And I'll probably start drawing inspiration from that. If I've gone to the extent that I can tell you, like, what the chief exports are from that region, what the crops are, what the cuisine there is like, I would probably lean into that too. So, for example, one of my characters is Trevor. Trevor was previously an officer in the military of an imperial nation, Drot. And Drot is, they're not the same as Rome. They're kind of like Rome plus Persia in some ways. But maybe a little bit more on the Roman side of things. But, they're not Rome. But the Romans drank something called Puska, a lot of it. Puska is it's kind of like, it's a drinking vinegar made from old red wine mixed with honey and some flavoring stuff. I've mixed some up. It's interesting. It's an acquired taste. It's honey and some red wine vinegar and lavender, and you boil it and reduce it and stuff like that, and you make Puska. It's interesting. I think that I would think about Puska and make it, which is basically a shrub in a lot of ways, and I would start there, and I would consider that to be my like sour component in a drink. The next thing is like, well, there's no spirits, right? Like there's nowhere to draw inspiration from in terms of spirits, because the ancient world had no distilled alcohol. They only had wine and beer. Maybe very limited quantities of distillates, like, an ounce here or there from an alembic. So I might start with that. That might be where I would start. Then I really, if what I'm going to say is like, Puska, which was drunk by the Roman legion. That's our baseline. What goes good with that? What can I do with it? And that kind of would become the drink. Off the top of my head, I don't know, and I don't have any Puska made to experiment with. That would be sort of my process in that case. If the page is 100% blank, and you can just make up any drink, then, it'd just be like, well, it's a daiquiri. It's a daiquiri for him, because I like daiquiris. Like, you have to have some kind of a guideline. You have to have guardrails to stay inside of rules. Otherwise, there's no fun in it. There's no, you can do anything you want. Italians did drink a lot of wine. You know what I found out recently is that the ancient Romans, now of course we value red wines for the most part over whites, but the ancient Romans did not. Red wine was for poor people. The white wines were where it was at. Favorite bourbons for drinking and neat. I like a BIB. Cask strength is a little proofy, but I'll take it, sure. And my favorite bourbon right now for pretty much everything is Old Grandad bottled in Bond. I will say that it's great for mixing. It's great for drinking neat. It's great for on the rocks. I think that I can go a lot cheaper though when I'm talking about making an old fashioned. I can easily use some bottom barrel like Four Roses Yellow Label or whatever. I'll make a fine drink. Oh, not just warm Dr. Doom. They would mix it with seawater. So we also take for granted cask making. The ancient Romans had no ability to make barrels. The ancient world had no barrels. The idea of wooden staves arranged by a cooper into a storage container didn't exist. They stored things in amphorae for the most part, which were ceramic pots. Done a lot of research on this because this is for a future episode of How to Drink. Old Grandad is cheap, that's why I love it. And so they would line those pots with resin. If you were the very best stuff, they would line them with beeswax, which was more neutral, although they still bunged it with a resin top. But for the most part, they would line them with resin. Where do they get the resin from? Pine resin. That's right, turpentine. So I actually have an ingredient called the tiers of Chios to make resinated wines of my own. It's basically pine resin. I haven't played with it yet, but it's something I'm going to use in the future. And you can still get resinated wines from Greece. I'm trying to think of the ones. Shit. There's a name for the style of wine that you can still get, and I forget the name of it. But basically, my understanding is that these wines out of the bottle. I mean, first off, drinking wine straight was something barbarians did as far as the Romans were concerned. But they tasted like pine tar. I mean, bad. They added seawater to them to improve them. They added no, not ouzo. Ouzo is a liquor. It's a resinated here. It's like a Strava or something like that. It's something that like apparently the deal is that your Greek grandma drinks it. I'm gonna look it up right now. Resinated Greek wine. Resinated wine. Retsina. Retsina is the stuff. Yeah, Retsina. And so that's as close to like ancient wine as you can get now. And it's briny, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't had a bottle of it yet, but I got to get my hands on some. And so people would add anything to it. They would add honey to it. They'd add water to it. They would add herbs and spices. They would add sugars if they could get access to it, but of course sugar is in short supply. They would add salt water. Basically anything to make it more palatable. And also the Romans thought that water was bad for you. They didn't think that it was a good idea to drink water, except for in limited quantities. They thought that wine and vinegar was way healthier. Yeah, Durzoblin. And it's also interesting, too, is that it was probably, now the other thing, counterpoint to that, is that they weren't really interested in, they were happy to make high quality wine, but it wasn't like a Vintner was like, we only make the best wines. It wasn't like a Vintner was like, we're targeting a specific flavor profile and calculating that fermentation just for that. It was like, we want to make as much wine as humanly possible, and we want it to be as high proof as humanly possible. So they would ferment to as much as they could, 18, 20%, just like really push it. And they would do a first press and a second press and a third press, and then they would add water to the skins and let that sit for a week and ferment that. They just did everything they possibly could to make that grape harvest into as many bottles or amphorae as they possibly could. And some of it, a portion of what we produced, was very good for rich people, and then it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So I'm not actually so the Romans knew that lead pipes was bad for you. They knew that lead was bad for you. They thought of lead as a vice, to be enjoyed in limited quantities. One of the very common things you would add to wine at a party was a little lead on a grater, a little block of lead, grate some lead in there because it tastes so good. It just tastes so good to put a little lead in your wine. I know I shouldn't, but just a little touch, it's just so good, yeah. So I actually don't know how much, I know they did definitely some plumbing with lead. and I know that the word plumium the plumber comes from lead. I don't know how much of their plumbing was in lead, though, because they knew it was real bad for you. They knew it was something to be avoided. They just couldn't help themselves. It was just so tasty. Yeah, that's exactly why kids used to eat lead paint. The paint chips coming off the walls are sweet. It tastes good. Exactly right. So they would put a little lead in there with their seawater and everything else. When will Greg teach us how to make a proper flip? I feel like I have, honestly. I mean, a couple different ways. A lot of people will tell you that my personal recipe for eggnog is technically a flip. And then also, if you watch my episode on the iron price, that's definitely a flip. That is a rum flip with some ale and an egg and a hot poker. That's a total flip. Cooking wine in lead pots because it gets so sweet. Okay, odd number. I didn't know that one, but sure, exactly. Romans can have a little bit of lead as a treat. Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. They knew it was bad for it, but just dang it. It's like the same way people are like, I shouldn't eat this cupcake, but oh darn. I mean, it's funny. Oh, really? We're back to crap show? Fucking hell. It looks like it's better now. Well, Chaucer, I did open it, and it did help. Totally, this is superstition, but whatever. You sure? I mean, it's green on my side. I feel like it should be good. Like, very green. So that's just the internet being the internet. I mean, right now we are in the middle of a wild storm. I mean, the wind is absolutely howling outside. It could be just like tension on the lines interrupting the signal, and then there's issues with that. So, yeah, totally works. Just a heads up too. Tomorrow we're gonna be live again, but I'm gonna be live on YouTube. So I'm gonna do the show live on YouTube. I've got some plans for that. We're gonna make quarantinis. We're gonna go through ingredients that you might have that you haven't really thought about that you can make a drink from. And then we'll take some instructions from the crowd. I think that's the plan. When did you change your globe out for a green one? That? Is it green? What are you talking about? A whole tour of speakeasies in New York City for HTD? Yeah, it's an idea. It's something to consider. I'm not going to do it right now. Fuck you, Private Joseph Borden. Gin and Emergency. Yeah, I can't get behind Gin and Emergency, although it's funny. No, to me, a quarantini is the stuff you're making with the bottles that you have that you don't know what else to do with. Cashew wine. I've never even heard of cashew wine. You're going to have to give me some flavor notes. Yep, Death Chemist, that sounds about right. And they like things sweet. They want things as sweet as they can make them, pretty much. I don't know what to do with my plum brandy. Plum brandy? I would make a sour with it, probably. I would think of it like, there was a place called Cambridge Cellars around here. They made honey-based wines and mead. Oh man, I never got any. I can see that I'm gonna have to fix this computer so it doesn't ring when my phone rings. Yeah, plum cobbler. There you go. Yeah. Well, it's tricky though because you only have the. I'm assuming you only have the plum brandy, so you've got no. Like if you have Shino, if you have some Ferry, if you have some sherry, I said some Shino Ferry, some. If you had some Fino sherry or just sherry, if you had some sherry, you could definitely do something there. You can make like a cobbler for sure. A plum cobbler, I would definitely take that, shake it over some crushed ice. If you have some mint, ooh, that would be lovely in there. Sweeten it up with a bit of simple syrup. I don't know, I'm not sitting with it, but you know, a couple dashes of bitters. Not the worst idea. Sokolava is the plum brandy. I don't have a bottle, so. Slivovitz is the plum brandy, yep. So Campari a while for Negronis and Boulevardiers, not knowing what Campari was, can't do this extreme bitter. Any suggestions on how to empty this bottle out of the sink? Yeah, do you have seltzer, Icky? Make yourself some Campari and soda spritzers. Just a little splash and some seltzer makes the seltzer a lot more pleasant. Well, not pleasant, but I mean, it adds a little kick, it adds a little flavor to it, and it won't be really, really bitter. As a matter of fact, when you thin it out that way, actually some of the sweetness and the fruit notes come forward. If you throw a drop of simple syrup in it, now you're going to really get into something that's kind of like a nice, pleasant, refreshing citrus soda. And certainly a Jungle Bird is a great drink. Drinks with Southern Comfort is a main ingredient. So I don't have Southern Comfort in front of me, but that's pretty low proof, right? If I'm not mistaken, is that 20% alcohol? That's like a total liqueur. I feel like in that case, you gotta just do what it says on the bottle and make a SoCo and lime. Or maybe again, look at it as like a spritz type thing. I know it sounds like I keep repeating myself, but I'm not really sure. As a main ingredient, if it's only 20%, it really can't be. I mean, I would, or a cobbler, like we were discussing before, shake it with ice, and enjoy it with some kind of an herb or something like that. If you have, what's the flavors that I don't know what it would exactly go with. Throw some bitters in it. Yeah, slogging orange juice. Yeah, so I mean, actually a little orange juice, a little SoCo, shake it over crushed ice, and if you've got a piece of mint, stick that in there. That's probably not so bad. Turn on steel magnolias and make a SoCo and lime. I just want to say I love your content. Thank you, Captain AJ. I use Kraken for a lot of the tiki-like drinks. The cheapest alcohol challenge. Well, again, I have what I have, and I may or may not have the cheapest stuff. I find Myers just take over every drink I put it in. Kraken doesn't do it quite as much. Ooh, I don't know how to respond to that. Joint live stream with the Educated Barfly. I'm working on a Golden Plump. We're definitely going to get him. We're going to do stuff together for sure. He wants to play Grand Theft Auto 5 together over on Twitch. I'm for it. What I want to do is get people to dial in, and we'll do like kind of interviews in here and stuff like that. Drink too angry to die. Anything with limoncello besides drinking it straight? Yeah, add it to seltzer. Make a limoncello Collins. Limoncello, you could look at other drinks that have lemon or citrus as a component and replace it. Look at doing a whiskey sour with limoncello. You could look at doing it with gin and making like a French 75 or a Collins, like an actual Collins. You could drink it straight. You could add seltzer. You could make it into a lemon soda. You could make a kind of a sidecar with it, or a brandy crusta. You could, Greg, not a Kraken fan. I haven't had a bottle, honestly. I'm not generally a fan of spiced rums because I feel like the whole purpose of tiki drinks is to put a bunch of spices together and make a drink. And if some brand has stuck a bunch of spirits of spices into a bottle, and I don't know what they are, and I have no control over it, it's tough for me to mix with it. I don't know what I'm working with. I don't have the ingredients. Coctopus has an answer for you with the limoncello. Easy vodka drinks with few ingredients. I'm a fan of the White Russian, if that helps. Well, make anything that you like drinking and add vodka to it. That's a real simple thing with vodka. If you have Curacao, you should be able to make a Cosmo, or Curacao and cranberry. If you don't have that, you can, of course, make a screwdriver with orange juice. You could make some Russian coffee with it. You could... Damn, Coctopus, that does sound good. If you started a show and realized the camera was on, how long did it take before you noticed? Well, I would do that alone. As a matter of fact, the other night I had to shoot something and I failed to record sound. But typically when we shoot the show, I'm not alone. I have a whole crew, so that's somebody else's responsibility. Thank you, by the way, Captain AJ. Oops, I sat on my keyboard. And you put Angostura bitters in your mead and it's changed the flavor. Of course. Of course. Limoncello blueberry. Oh, I'm of mixed feelings about blueberry. It's not my favorite thing. I feel like I got a splinter in my belly here from the side of my bar. I usually wear an apron, so that's probably true. When I shoot a show, do I have to abide by union rules? I do not. Held a message. Identity. Oh, I see. Interesting. That's funny. What song do you use for intro? It's a song called Hot Lips by Bill Brown. It's pre-code. It is in the public domain. Last week, I got drunk, decided to mix juniper berries, Saint Germain Benedictine, and chartreuse with tonic. It's all right. I don't remember the ratio. How would you do a drink with those ingredients? Interesting question. I happen to have all of those ingredients too. Well... So, Wyatt, I would say that your chartreuse and your Benedictine occupy kind of the same space. As a matter of fact, I would pick one or the other. And I'm going to go with chartreuse. The juniper, that's an interesting note. And Saint Germain. Now, that's an interesting question. Well, honestly, you know what you're really close to there, to be frank, is a last word variation. So if you take the Saint Germain, I would just go, this is what I would do, actually. I would skip the juniper berries. I would get yourself some gin. I would get yourself a bottle of London Dry gin. I would do 1 ounce of gin, 1 ounce of chartreuse, 1 ounce of Saint Germain, or maybe you might end up doing a split there. And we need some kind of a citrus there. And I don't know why, but grapefruit sounds really good to me in that drink. And I would do 1 ounce of grapefruit. And I would start that. I would make that my baseline. And then see how that comes out. And shake that up and then dial it in from there. You guys want to try that one? I think I got some grapefruit upstairs. Wyatt was here? You did the Germain as a rinse? Yeah. Okay, let me go get my grapefruit, and let me go confirm I have my grapefruit, and we'll shake that one up, and I'll be right back. That's an interesting drink. We'll workshop that. I have Saint Germain. Got London Dry. All right. Be right back. Don't you go nowhere. And please pardon the advertisement. So I went to grab my ingredients, and I'm back. I've got a grapefruit here, and I happen to have one in my fridge, which is good because I always buy them, but then nobody ever eats them. And let's give this guy a quick rinse. Okay. Got my London Dry. I brought some like Sardox. We might want that. I got my green chartreuse up here. Just collecting ingredients together. Dry gin. Saint-Germain. And let's go with that. Let's go with that. All right. Shaker. Oh, I was like, did I forget the pedestal thing? Jeez. These guys over. Okay, so we're gonna start with 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. And, oh, I guess this is one of those red grapefruits. So that's the kind of grapefruit we're gonna have today. Let's put this guy over here. My small tin. And we're going to go with 1 ounce pour here. Okay, 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. And next thing we're going to want is, trying to stash things out of my way here. I turned my back to the camera again, as I'm not supposed to do that. We said Saint Germain, chartreuse, and lemon virgin, and you said that it was just a rinse of Saint Germain. I understand that because Saint Germain is powerful, but we got to maintain this ratio. And I'm trying to keep it to what you had said. I suppose we could rebalance in favor of this. So what if we made it more gin than is typical? We'll go 1.5 ounces of gin. I don't use this jigger at all. Half an ounce of Saint Germain. And 1 ounce of chartreuse. Ooh, a little heavy. It's all right. Okay, so that's ready to shake. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to put some ice into my tin. Making do with what we got here. Melty, welty ice here. Okay. Glass of ice, shaker, in it goes. Tap it shut a little bit. One thing I do is I tend to start slow and then build up speed, because as the temperature of the air in here decreases, it contracts and builds a seal. Okay, drink is shaken. I've got a chilled glass that I just grabbed. Boom. Let's pour it in that. Let's go overhead for that. Why not? And away we go with the pour. Should have done a 3/4 ounce measure instead of an ounce, because we have a little bit more in the tin here. And the bar shot is back here. Okay. So, kind of riffing off of the drink we just got a description of. Let's see if it's any good. Boy, that's not bad. It's very herby. The grapefruit is shockingly lost. I really expected the grapefruit to punch through much harder. It is very herby. It's real herby. The combination of chartreuse and Saint Germain, very complimentary. I just wish it was a little, I think I want a little lime in it. I think it's just missing a little bit of, it's a little muted. It's not bright. It doesn't have like that punch that I would expect. This is something I would never do. But under these conditions, we're doing, we're riffing, we're experimenting. We don't know what we've got yet. And I seem to not have my juicer handy, so I'm just gonna do this by hand. I'm going to try to put a 1/2 ounce of lime juice in my shaker here without my juicer. One thing, when you're doing it this way, I like to roll it. I'll show you actually in the close-up. If you're ever at a party and you've got to juice a 1/2 lime, don't squeeze all at once. Squeeze lightly and try to roll, okay? If you ever don't have your tools and you're at somebody else's house and they ask you to make a drink, and you go to their bar drawer or whatever, and it's just like, okay, you have a wine opener, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so that's a 1/2 ounce. And now I'm going to take the whole thing. I know, we're breaking some crazy rules. But we want to maintain ratios here. We're going to take the whole drink, put it back in. We'll just do a test. You are on the bar. Need that tally light. I got to figure out how to set up a tally light on Twitch. I don't know how to do that yet. I don't know that Twitch, there's no OBS. I'll look into it. OBS might have some kind of, I bet somebody's got a plug-in for a tally light. And I'm going to bet that this is just a little bit sharper. Okay. All right. Let's see how this one came out. That's lovely. It's just a little bit more tart. What the heck is up with this grapefruit? Because I'm used to grapefruit being aggressively tart. That's why I was like, yeah, it should work easy. Let's just take a wedge of grapefruit here and eat it, because something's funny about this thing. It's like really mild. It is mild. It's bitter, but not really concentrated. It's not really strong. It's probably been in my fridge for a while, to be honest. I bet that your normal grapefruit, you wouldn't need that extra punch of, generally it's sweeter, but I don't even mean that. I mean, it's just not very loud flavor. It tastes like a lot of its water in there. So I think it probably a typical, even with a ruby grapefruit, you're going to be fine. You won't need that extra kick from the lime, but here, just need a little bit more bite, need a little bit more tartness. 1.5 ounces of gin. 1.5 ounces of gin. 1 ounce of grapefruit. 1/2 ounce of lime. 1 ounce of chartreuse. And 1/2 ounce of Saint Germain. Boy, that's not bad. It is, you gotta like chartreuse and Saint Germain. It's herby, but not overpowering. It's balanced by the tart. It's a very drinkable drink. I like it a lot. It's a little dry for my taste, to be perfectly honest, because I can feel that the flavor profile has this evolution, and it's a little bit short. So I'm just from experience, I'm telling you, I can detect where the volume is turning down. If there was a bar spoon of simple syrup in there, it would lengthen it out. You added the Benedictine for the honey, yeah? Interesting notion. So then in that case, maybe we should have used yellow chartreuse instead of green. I mean, we have another shake. We could do it again. Yeah. I don't know. It's growing on me a lot. I really like it. The more I drink it, the more I like it. I suppose I'm missing the maraschino. Typically in a, that's what that sweetness is that's missing in there, is that typically with a last word type drink, you would use maraschino as a component, some kind of sweetness you get from there for sure. If you put the maraschino back in, you're going to get that big time. So maybe what I did was I cut God. I didn't give a full ounce of space to the Saint Germain. I instead cut that in half and then gave that 1/2 ounce back to the gin. If Fireblaze, it's maraschino in, as far as I know, so when we're talking about the liqueur, the Italian liqueur, we say maraschino. Every professional bartender I know would say it that way. Maraschino, the only time you ever hear somebody say maraschino, in my experience, where I'm at locally, regionally, here in the Northeast, is when, and I'm also talking about, in the craft bartending world, not necessarily like lay people's, but if we're specifically are looking for like preserved American cherries, you would say maraschino, the stuff you put on ice cream. Let me think about this for a second. So if we take the chartreuse, See, my hesitance for the Benedictine is because we've already got one herbal liqueur in there, so I feel like we should try to, Benedictine plus chartreuse. That's kind of jumping into the same well twice in some ways. I think I'm gonna get some so just Fireblaze. So Maraschino cherries here in America, they were a product of, I think, the 1920s. I think they were invented by a food scientist from not Duke, what's that one? Cornell, I think Cornell University, based on cherries he saw in Italy. It was because we had a huge bumper crop that year of cherries in the Pacific Northwest. They were all going to go bad before anybody could sell them. And he said, we could preserve them. And so he came up with maraschino cherries based on maraschino cherries he saw in Italy. And so Luxardo produces maraschino cherries, which are actually, they say they're the Luxardo strain of the cherry, but they're really Marasca cherries. That's where it comes from, maraschino. And they also make this liqueur from them, from the stems and the leaves and the pits and all of the parts of it. And so you could go all Benedictine, but I'd like to keep. Where's my? Give me 1 second. I gotta go to the bar. Gotta go back to the bar. Actually, can we do that? Can I bring you with me? Hold on a second. See if I can set that up real quick. It's always fun when we do that. Where's OBS cam? There it is. It's connected, so the answer is yes. We switch the camera. It's awkward. But if we go... Check it out, guys. You can come with me to my wall of alcohol. You didn't see that coming, did you? Okay. Let's see here. Audio's probably a mess, and I apologize if it is. Where is my Butter. Heck is my Benedictine or my Chartreuse? I can't see the chat right now if you guys are talking. I apologize. Lost all my booze. Was it actually sitting behind me on the bar and I didn't see it? I looked like 5 times. I didn't see it. Benedictine, yellow chartreuse, I don't see you anywhere. Where are you? You son of a gun. Maybe I left you in the bar, and I don't even realize it. Oh, jeez. Bumped right into that wall. That's dangerous. Gotta be careful about that. Alright, one more time. Green chartreuse. I wonder if I brought it upstairs. If I did, I can't bring you with me because I get in trouble when I do that. How was the audio there, guys? Did it work? It looks like I am going to have to hit the be right back button. I was trying to avoid that because I think that somehow both of these bottles might have gone upstairs, which is so crazy because I never use them. Oh! I think I see him now. Yeah. Hold on a second. We'll go back. Okay, so now you can go really behind the camera. We'll go back to the Rome game. Okay, so over here, we'll come to the other side of the garage into the dark. But, you know, okay, so I've got a little table set up over here with some other bottles on it. So that's yellow chartreuse and the Benedictine. Okay, so now that you guys have seen what that side of my room looks like, now you get an idea. Fun stuff, right? Oh, look at that. Over here, all illusions. All illusions. They're not tricks, Michael. Okay. So we've got our Benedictine, and we've got our Citrus, yellow Citrus. Let's rinse this out and reuse it. And we're gonna do the same thing with these martinis. Sorry guys, you're gonna have to see the ugly truth. Sometimes the drinks don't get drank. What? JJ, man, that was yours truly. Not to slight Meredith, by the way. She had an enormous head, didn't help it. Me, Meredith, and Stefano built this. I did the design work in SketchUp. I figured out kind of all the angles and made sure it was all going to fit just right and stuff. But yeah, a little 3D design went a long way on this one. Okay. Just another quick rinse here. Perfect. So let's say, for example, that we're going to go with the yellow chartreuse now because we're skipping our sweet component entirely. All right, one more time here. We're going to do this, and let's split our citrus right down the middle. We're going to go 1/2 ounce of lime. It's tricky because I really kind of feel like this needs to be like right out in front here, but then it's kind of in my shot. But whatever. Okay. So we're going to split this. Meredith, it might be possible for you to control this remotely, believe it or not. I don't know how to set that up yet, but something we can look into. Okay. 1/2 ounce of lime. Some of that went in the tin. And now 1/2 ounce of grapefruit. Okay. And gin go. Do bar split, right? So now, and 1 ounce of gin. I lean way forward, I can see down in there, but the camera's over here. So, by the way, people always ask me like, how can you spill so much? I'm like, I gotta work way over here where the cameras are. 1 ounce of gin. And a lot of times, by the way, to get the angles right, I'm doing stuff like this. Okay. And, careful now, fellas. Still only want 1/2 ounce here, actually. Let's go 1/2 ounce. Half an ounce there. Since we're doing that, let's still go with the extra 1/2 ounce of gin. God damn it, you know what, guys? I think I only poured 1/2 ounce of gin in there to begin with. Make it 1 ounce. Not used to this jigger yet, throws me off. Man, Ivan, that's terrifying. I knew something about that earthquake, but not much. I'm stuttering a bit. No, come on, man. Connection's green. Connection's green. More green. And then I really want to stick with these yellow chartreuse. I know that the originator of the drink is insisting that Benedictine should go in there. I think this is going to be good. Yellow chartreuse. Okay. We can do a Benedictine version too, though. This is an ice knife, by the way. It is a product that is made by Barfly. And I happen to be a big fan. It comes in handy for me. Might not be the most useful thing for every bartender under the sun, to be honest. Okay. Wrong button there. So we gotta fix that. That's it. We're gonna have to fix that. That's not acceptable. Okay, here it is. I'll give you the spec again in a second. That is a delight. I love that drink. Oh my God, that tastes like nothing I've ever had. And you do get a really cool honey kind of aftershock. That is cool. Sorry. I mean, I'm still tasting the honey from the yellow chartreuse. That's really fun. That's a cool drink. So the spec is half an ounce of lime, half an ounce of ruby red grapefruit, 1.5 ounces of London dry gin, half an ounce of Saint Germain, and 1 ounce of yellow chartreuse. I'm gonna actually finish this drink because this is fucking fantastic. I never played AC Brotherhood. Oh man, that's good. That's so good. It's just light, citrusy, just the right amount of like the balance between sweet and sour is really perfect. And it has this really cool like echoing flavor of honey that shows up late in the flavor profile. You get that herbaceousness, and of course we're still getting a thing where the chartreuse and elderflower work together to really make it very herby, but not now. It's not overpowering the way it was in that first mix, which was close but not perfect. Much more balanced here, and then it becomes kind of familiar. It turns into something that feels like a pretty familiar sour that then yields a very lengthy honey finish. I think this is an excellent last word variation, top notch, and it's a pretty weird one because I've never heard of it. So I think we've just, thanks to, and I apologize who the suggestion came from in the comment, Wyatt. Yes, Wyatt, man. This is the Wyatt. Wyatt was here. Last word. This is the Wyatt's word. Wyatt's word. That's the only name I can go. This is Wyatt's word, man. It's a little different from what you came up with, but the Wyatt word. Why word? Waka wow. It's Wyatt's word. That's the drink. 1.5 ounces London dry gin, half an ounce of, I'm sorry, let me do this from the top so I don't forget. One more time, let's record this to video so it is not lost to the sands of time. Half an ounce of lime juice, half an ounce ruby red grapefruit, half an ounce Saint Germain, 1 ounce yellow chartreuse, 1.5 ounces London dry gin. Shake it, double strain it, serve it up in a chilled glass. No garnish necessary. Though to be perfectly blunt, flavor profile wise, a sprig of lavender would really be perfect here for the nose. Just kind of clipped to the side of the glass or coming out of the glass. And also that blue, those little blue blossoms offset by this green color. They're real contrasty, far apart on the color wheel. That's the garnish to go with if you're gonna have a garnish here. Little sprig of lavender. Wyatt, thank you for the, what is that, 10 cents? I can't remember, is that $1? Bits, I forget how bits work. They are hilarious. It's like each bit is 1/100th of a penny. I forget what it is. Not for you, but for like what I make. Yellow chartreuse, not green. The green was too much in this case. It does look yellow, but let's look at it in the close-up. It's yellow, but it's a greenish yellow. It's probably more yellow than green, though. You're probably right. So, it's a penny a cent. Nice. That's fine, Wyatt. I'm not complaining. I just think that it's 1 ounce yellow chartreuse. 1 ounce, a whole ounce. Any reason to shake it rather than stir it? Yeah, absolutely. Lemon, we have juices, we have fruit juices, we have citrus in here. And this stuff's not clear, it's pulpy. So we were talking about that earlier. Anytime you add any kind of citrus to a drink, traditionally you would shake it. Also traditionally last words are shaken. Could you have stirred it? I think this drink would be a terrible drink if you stirred it. I think it would not work well. And I don't actually have enough ingredients on hand to demonstrate why. But there's pulpy bits in our citrus when we squeeze them, when we juice them. You want to pulverize them. You want to break them up. You want to destroy them as much as possible against the ice. You want to equally distribute them. Thanks for the fucking penny, Durzo. I'm dancing for pennies over here. I'm dancing for pennies. You want to, did anybody notice that I'm wearing sweatpants? Did my knees get that high? You want to pulverize those fruit pulps and get them as distributed and aerated throughout the drink as humanly possible. These are I've been living in these sweatpants. These are the quarantine sweatpants. We're all living in sweatpants now. I saw somebody tweet the other day, 9 p.m., time for me to switch out of my daytime pajamas into my nighttime pajamas. And I was like, that is very true. Yeah, so it's just, oh God, it gets better too. It gets really good. It gets even better. This is a top-notch drink. Put this one in your fucking... Oh man, it's going in the book. Thank you, Wyatt. It's a great drink, Wyatt. We came up with something wonderful here together. And unique. It's not like another last word variation that I'm familiar with. Yes, so anyway, it's because of the fruit juices in there, you really want to shake it. It's going to be better to be shaken. If you stirred it, what might happen is a separation as those pulps that are not now pulverized, not destroyed, not aerated, not really violently incorporated into the drink, they're going to grab onto parts of the drink and they're going to settle. And parts of the drink are going to rise, and you're going to end up with a layered thing with distributed flavors rather than incorporated flavors. So you should shake it. Paranoid Ackroyd. JJ, man, where are you going to class? Are you talking about my show? Okay. I hope you're talking about remain indoors. It's everybody's favorite game show, Remain Indoors. Remember that bit? I tweeted that the other day. Last night, this morning, whatever. Golden Plump, 1.5 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of lemon, but you wanted lime, didn't have it, a half ounce reposado tequila, half ounce of simple of 2 dashes of Ango. Ooh, that's an interesting drink. Have you ever thought about sending out a shopping list before your stream to viewers? We can make the drink along with you. Berry Toes, that was actually something that we used to do on Patreon. And yeah, that was a Mitchell and Webb reference. Remain indoors. Yes, we certainly did used to do that. Unfortunately, the schedule is so higgledy-piggledy a lot of times where I'm kind of pulling episodes off the list out of my hat, and it's really hard to give significantly advanced notice and have that be reliable information. If I could guarantee that nothing's going to change between now and a week ago, then I'd be much more comfortable doing that. But yeah, but that was a Patreon thing. I think that was one of the $5 benefits. Eyes just pickled some radishes and onions because I make a gin martini and replace the olives with an onion. Oh, Eyes. A woman after my own heart. Fuck yeah. I love that. Just pickle your radishes and onions. Guys, if you have onions, slice them up and pickle them. You should be doing that anyway. You guys want me to get my cook plate here and we'll pickle some onions? Yep, I have a bit of Lapsang Souchong tea upstairs. I haven't tried it in a Demerara. It's an interesting notion. I made a pot of it and decided, oh, this is not everyday tea. This is tea that I need to be in a special mood for. I'm probably going to go to culinary school, and if that goes bad, my backup plan is to become a bartender. Do you think that's a good idea? Also, lots of love from Sweden. Fire Blaze, I think that's a great plan. Here's what I think, guys. Here's what I think. I've had a few drinks now, so you're going to get the honest, unvarnished truth. I think that you should truly do what you love. And I think that not because it'll make you money, but because it'll be what you love. And I think that, honestly, as a society, we need, as a people, God damn it, we're getting philosophical on stream. It's not a good idea. I think that as a people, we should worry less about return on investment in terms of our education and our career pursuits and in terms of financial sense, and more on in terms of how rewarding it is. Now, I realize that that is impossible in a lot of places on Earth. Here in America, if you don't have a job that provides quality health insurance, you need one. I mean, that's just a fact. If we've done the comparisons on what's available, you know, my wife and I get insurance through her job, and we've done the comparisons on like, well, what if she quit? What will we buy? Even buying absolutely the best insurance available on the insurance exchange through the Affordable Care Act, it still falls short of what her union job provides. It's tough, man, and it's expensive. So I wish and I hope that we can all get to a place where what we're doing has less to do with how much money we make doing it and more to do with how much we enjoy the time we're spending. Because the time, there is no currency on Earth as in short supply as time. You have what you've got, and you've got to do your whole life with the time that you have. That's just a fact. And you should definitely, to the extent that is possible, be concentrating on doing the things with the most valuable currency in the universe, time, irreplaceable time that you love. Yeah, we all take our turns being somebody else's vassal, you know, working for someone else's money. But man, like, if you can be a cook and love being a cook, be a cook. Don't worry. I wish I could tell you to not worry about how much money you're going to make, because frankly, cooks are necessary functions in society and they should be rewarded as such. And if the financial aspect of being a cook doesn't reward them, then we as society should support them collectively, because we need cooks, right? We need to hold these people up. And I don't mean like to a bare minimum. Anyway, getting into some real, we're getting into some real theoretical, political stuff. What's interesting is that this all adds up to conspire to create a simulated kind of dill flavor. There's definitely dill in this drink, although I added no dill to it at all. Jungle Jim, what do I think about tipping? That's a great question. I think that as long as tipping exists, you should tip generously, but I also think that tipping shouldn't exist. So it's actually funny too, because like early in America, there was a whole, when tipping started getting its fingers into our society, there was a big backlash that this was a European idea. This is about the gentry. This is an aristocratic idea that people with money should be able to dictate who and who does not benefit from my beneficence. I should be able to decide at a whim that I will tip this one and not that one. This one pleases me, that one does not. And that is where America, actually, when tipping first, it was considered to be un-American to tip, that we should have a wage. You should get paid for the work you did. It shouldn't matter whether or not you made the patron happy. That is a fundamentally un-American concept, at least in terms of like when the country was founded. It was it was an aristocratic concept, and as a country that was about eliminating the aristocracy, at least that was what the founding principles were on paper. You know, whether or not that was ever reality is up to debate. There was a big debate about it when it got introduced into America. And I think that remains true, that the idea of tipping is fundamentally aristocratic. However, we now have a situation where people are dependent on it. So it's like you can't, you're doing nobody any favors by protesting against tipping, by not tipping the server who is working their fucking ass off to work for you. You got to tip like out your nose. There has to be some kind of switch. We have to mandate a living wage. I hate to say this, but we do. I hate to get political on the stream, but here we are. I've had a few drinks. This is what's going to happen. This is the stuff that gets edited out of YouTube. You're going to have to mandate a living wage for the people who are in the service industry. Otherwise, we can never get away from tipping. Once we do that, we can safely offload tipping. Until then, tip generously, tip well. These people are working their asses off for your life and for your enjoyment. And in fact, we are working on, and I wish to hell I was talking about it today, but they have it's difficult yet. We don't have them set up with Tiltify is what it comes down to. The U.S. Bartenders Guild, USBG, you should donate to them. Because there's a lot of people who live on tips, bartenders, people who work at restaurants with liquor licenses who are out of a job currently. And if you live on tips, you are more than likely living your life shift to shift. Which means one missed shift means not making rent. It's just reality. You could be high and mighty about it if you want. You could talk about, aren't you supposed to have 6 months of saved, you should have 6 months of living expenses saved. Good luck with that. Good luck. Here in America, good luck. Probably around the world, good luck. It's a very privileged position to take. But the U.S. Bartenders Guild has a charity, and they are making immediate contributions and grants to people who are put out of work by the coronavirus. And I'm 100% trying to initiate a fund drive for these people, for the guild. However, at the moment, the technology has yet to catch up with being online. So as soon as it is, that will be a thing. More so, but in the meantime, I encourage you, regardless of having a little Tiltify doodad on this stream, to donate generously to the USBG, because these people need to live. What big corporations can't go more than a week without a $1 trillion bailout? My dad used to be a finance professor and kept giving me advice. I'm like, do you realize it's not 1970 anymore? Fair point, my friend. Bruh, the airlines don't have 6 months of rent saved. No, and the reason that they don't, if you ever looked at, just imagine if instead of in a CEO's pocket, and forget about just the CEO, but the entire C-level corporate board, what's in their pockets, if the money wasn't there, but was instead in the company's coffers, how long do you think they could float? This gets very political very quick, so we have to be very careful. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Meredith, with the link. Oh, Boeing did a $3 billion stock buyback last year. How is Boeing a private company? That's crazy to me. It's kind of crazy to me that we allow companies whose primary function is to deliver our bombs to be private companies and to profit by it. But that's just me. I feel like they should be they are effectively unelected functions of our state as it is. Should they not be de facto, actual state things? I'm great, Hana Hana Honolulu Baguette. The cruise industry wants a bailout, but they fly under other countries' flags to pay not American taxes. I agree with you there, Drusky619. Oh my, do I agree with you there. Oh, my degree is in aviation ops. Aviation uses financial models to look years down the road to get market and fuel predictions. One big thing like COVID-19 completely trashes the system. Exactly, Durzo. Boeing and Lockheed 19 are essentially the R&D of the U.S. Air Force, and I would say DoD writ large. And yet we allow them to exist as private entities, siphoning public funds. Guys, what stays in Twitch stays in Twitch. It's like Las Vegas. You gotta be careful about that stuff. Honestly, if you're gonna bail out major companies out of their debts, why not only do it if they accept being bought by the government and nationalized? Cultural Marxist. I see that it isn't it's not a pun in your name. you simply typoed out the R. I agree. Have you guys noticed though that while big things hits and distracts the population, the government tends to do shit behind our backs? Like we're not too distracting those. Well, I noticed that they were trying to create a $500 billion slush fund to hand over so that Steve Mnuchin, without any oversight at all, could hand it out to his buddies. I noticed that. I wasn't too tippled to observe. Luckily didn't pass. Yeah, but I mean, I am Bait Meme. I am Bat Meme. I am Bat Meme. What a brilliant name. Disorganized do not net, thankfully. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, but I'm also like, what the fuck is going on, man? Are we still pickling onions? We probably should be, shouldn't we? We should get the fuck off this topic and pickle some onions. More further into this drink, the saucier it gets. Let's get saucy. That should be my show. We should call it Let's Get Saucy. Have you heard of the bill to deregulate and end encryption? Oh my god, this chat is flying! All I had to do was introduce a little controversy. I have not heard of that bill, end encryption bill. I'm trying to keep up, guys. Here in Canada, the awful stuff is potential bailout for Alberta oil because the cost of oil and thus industry in Alberta has tanked. It's frustrating as all heck. Yeah, man, bail out the people and who will be out of work. Just like pay them to not work. That'd be better. That would be better, I think, personally, from a moral standpoint, than paying people to drill for oil we don't need. That's what I think. Bombardier is the Boeing of Canada and is actually partially owned by the Canadian government. Well, at least over there, you have some kind of elected oversight, right? If they're partially owned by the government, that means your vote matters for them. Bombardier, honestly, Greg, I didn't have any ideas of what your politics were before the stream, but now that I got a feel for them, I feel way better binging your videos. Binge away. Anyway, here's some onions. I'm like frustrated because this shit being pulled on government and industrial levels is actually crap and it sucks. The Wyatt word is Greg's filter remover. Onions preserve the politics. We are pickling something. My onions are pickling. Any drink recommendations for someone who likes Negronis and Boulevardiers? A Jamaican Negroni was already accepted. Crimson the 5, 6, 7, 8. Crimson the 8th. May I suggest to you the Jungle Bird, the tiki answer to a Negroni and a Boulevardier? Scorpion XMLS. You have Saint Germain on the shelf. What are your favorite drinks that use it? With all this piss and vinegar, something should be pickles. I'm going to come back to Scorpion. Well, the answer is this, actually. This is what we just made. Wyatt's Word is my favorite drink for Saint Germain. Saint Germain is so overpowering in drinks that like a quarter ounce takes it over. I made a drink years ago called a Gin Whisper, named after a friend that we dubbed the Gin Whisperer, who becomes a different person when she drinks gin, similar to what you're witnessing with myself right now when he drinks any one of anything. That drink, early How to Drink, way back in the archives, probably like a 2.5 minute video. That would be the favorite drink that I ever came up with that uses Saint Germain. Otherwise, Wyatt's Word is banging. I'm from Europe, so I'm lost on the bailouts idea, but it seems to wrap up more anarchistic and socialist ideas in people of anger, so that's good. Orchid PL. Okay, guys, I gotta head out. Okay. I won't be buried, I'll be pickled. You should start a podcast, man. Thank you. But what would I do on my podcast? Yeah, the end of end-to-end encryption is trying to be snuck in during all this madness. This is absurd. You know what, man? Disorganized.net, I don't know enough about end-to-end encryption to have an opinion. I really don't. I honestly don't. Because I'm not like, I don't know. I don't know enough about to have an opinion. That's all I'm going to say. When he goes still, I'm scared the stream has crashed. I found More of my drunk drink recipes. Preach! There isn't an onion emoji. We gotta fix that. Gas is $1.70 here, and it's quite nice. Well, yeah, fair enough. It's like we're all down here in the dirt while the rest of the political and industrial hierarchy is sitting pretty with their big bailouts. They can pay my rent for the next 20 goddamn years. This is the only stream I've ever watched talk politics, chill, and everyone not lose their mind. Greg, please start a podcast. Elderflower in a G&T is always good, and I agree, but you got to be very light touch, like dashes, a rinse, a 1/4 ounce at most. All right, guys, I've got an online class. Removal of end-to-end encryption allows for the government to monitor, record, and see all of your text calls, etc. Yeah, I hear you, Facile. What kind of vinegar do you use for pickling? Honestly, whatever I've got. I mean, upstairs I've got some red wine and some rice vinegar and I've probably got some white vinegar, but I use the white distilled vinegar for cleaning mostly. By the way, just a pro-life tip. If you want to clean out your tub and get the soap scum off of it, take Blue Dawn, mix it 50-50 with white distilled vinegar, shake it up, put it in a spray bottle, let it do its thing. Oh my God, man. You'll find that there's grippy texture at the bottom of your bathtub that you didn't know existed because it has been filled with minerals from soap scum. It's amazing. I actually think a situation like this has a lot more logic to a bailout than most of the times we've gotten in the bailouts, but I've got no sympathy for the cruises or most airlines, given how much they've bought back stocks, which was illegal from the 1930s until Reagan. Meredith, can I get a permit for a Twitch clip? Durzo can, Meredith. Wait. What is it that you made? I don't even know. What is a drink that you would wish upon an enemy, but you would still be willing to drink? Ooh. Lord Inquisitor Tulip with a serious philosophical question. A wish you would drink upon an enemy. And at that point, I'm going to scroll to update the chat room because I can't read every single comment. Coctopus, what does Suze taste like? It tastes like gentian. Yes, very sharply like gentian. What drink would you wish upon an enemy but would still be willing to drink? Well, friends, let me tell you. The first answer is, of course, iocane powder, because I, as you may be aware, have developed a resistance to iocane powder over several years. As you wish. But no, I think that my imitation gin would be it. When I did Victory Gin from 1984, I personally know I can handle that. I like that. I don't hate that. Yeah, exactly. The Baijiu thing. I can drink it and I know what I'm in for, but you don't, and it is a fucking nightmare. How about a video about your favorite old-fashioned variations? I kind of did that, drunks. I did old-fashioned variations. The original War Date. That's inconceivable. Okay, so this is a very first world. I was at a place grabbing soup for lunch in Soho, New York, and apparently Wallace Shawn was behind me in line, also ordering soup. And when I heard him say, "I'll have the mushroom bisque," oh my God, it cut through the room to hear him order soup. I was like, holy shit, he's fucking here. Yeah, it's that voice. It's not like, that's not a voice he does. That's his voice. The inconceivable voice is who he is all the time. I don't think he can turn it off. You still want to try the, oh, Greg, I impressed a really cute Canadian guy by showing him your Victory Gin video. Well, Eyes, I hope that works out for you. Good luck. Get yourself that permanent residency and that single-payer healthcare. I still want to try that 6-demon bag. You really shouldn't, but you should watch the video on a loop. Your podcast should be just drinking until you're a little bit tipsy, and then you talk politics and other stuff. The jellyfish shot: 1 ounce of sambuca, 1 ounce of tequila, and a few drops of Tabasco for tendrils. Leith shows up to say my name in all capital letters. We had a philosophy professor who had that voice and spent all semester trying to get him to say inconceivable. Oh, that's funny. He knew what you were up to. He was wise to that game. Sir Patrick Stewart is reading Shakespeare on Twitter. That's wonderful. I can't compete with that. You guys should go watch Patrick Stewart. So, Death's Chemist, you don't like... Oh, he was reading sonnets, by the way, because people have been doing sonnets a day on Twitter. The Hammer. Have you tried Dorda? I made the chocolate strawberry with it, and it looked terrible. It tasted great. Reminds me of the Bloody Brain. Some people like that. I consider it disgusting. I can't read that, Max Ryder. I have not tried Dorda, and I don't know what it is. I apologize. By the way, guys, I finished that drink. That's how you know that I liked it. I very seldom finish drinks on the show. I just often pour them out. That was a really good drink, Wyatt's word. I'm not even joking. Super perfect. He's an economist, too. This is a velvetly voice, clever, good taste in movies, nice, good taste in movies, nice blue eyes, my poor sin heart. Has anyone said that you are basically Benjamin Babish but with drinks? Fireblaze, I've been told that many a time. Is it illegal for me to watch this as I am sober? I am Batmeme. It is not illegal. YouTube episode when? Well, Wyatt, it's tricky because I got to think about click-through rate. So I can't just be like, hey, here's a drink made from a guy that I met on Twitch and the entire world should click on it. But if we ever do a thing with last word variations again, this will be in the mix. It's a very good drink. Yeah. Twitch special, collect a bunch of drinks. We can do something like that, yeah. Well, tomorrow I'll be on YouTube, and you should be there, please. I'm hoping to get a good showing. What was in that drink? Potato Ato said. It was a half an ounce of lime juice, half an ounce of ruby red grapefruit juice, 1 ounce of yellow chartreuse, 1.5 ounces of London dry gin, and a half an ounce of Saint Germain elderflower liqueur shaken and served up. Any non-alcoholic variants? Alcohol lowers the immune system, so some people won't be drinking for a while. And I agree with that, Scoobiozilla. They shouldn't be. What time is the YouTube thing? You know what? Disorganized.net. I will make an announcement as soon as I can. It's a hard for me to do that right now on stream. I'm not as organized as I appear. I will be there, says Honolulu Baguette. Could do an episode on... Oh, it's gone. We should go work on it. You know what? I wonder if I can make this bigger because, I mean, it's hard to keep up with this chat room. There we go. I got no chartreuse, so none of that for me. Gotta improvise. Well, if you have honey and Benedictine, I would say do an ounce of Benedictine with a 1/4 ounce or half an ounce of honey. In your reply to my question, Lord Inquisitor, thank you. I will long for the day when I can get my hands on Baijiu. I love to drink well-crafted poisons, also known as cocktails. I had thought a double cachaça, the Brazilian rum-like spirit, old-fashioned with some homemade brunch bitters, dried chilies, garlic, cracked peppercorn, and garnished with lemon. Ooh, lovely. Do you guys know the difference between European and American channels on Twitch? On American channels, most people have Prime, and on the European side, almost nobody has Prime. Also, hi Greg, keep up with the new show. Thank you. I have a friend who voices tastes like gin, yuzu, smell of honey, and smell of smoke, and I could listen to him speak for hours. Because of the time zone and work, I probably won't make it tomorrow, depending on when it is, though. Fire Blaze, where are you working? Are you working in essential retail, like GameStop? Apparently, GameStop CEO was saying that they're essential retail. I gotta tell you, I'm on a one-man boycott of Whole Foods because the CEO of Whole Foods, who isn't Jeff Bezos, he's the owner, it's different, said that, you know, employees who are healthy and not showing coronavirus symptoms should share their vacation time with employees who are. Like, my fucking God, man. You can't just, like, take care of people for 5 minutes? Fuck you. I made my favorite dessert drink while looking at what's on my shelf. An ounce of Screwball peanut butter whiskey, 2 ounces of St. Brendan's Irish cream, an ounce of cinnamon syrup topped with some cinnamon syrup. An ounce of cinnamon syrup topped with some cinnamon syrup, and I'm very proud of my creation. All right, man. Good for you, Greatest Muppet. That sounds good. I feel like it needs chocolate. Office Memo sent out a memo saying we are essential business. Office Depot. I gotta tell you something, Office Depot employee. You are not essential business. Have you made videos covering different types of beer? I have not. Whole Foods is expensive and ridiculous. Fuck them. Well, around here, there's a talk that Whole Foods delivers, and so they are, via Amazon Prime, one way to get your grocery re-up without having to come into contact with humans. Nah, bro. Swedish food shop called ICA. Okay. Thrifty Walrus. Yeah, I agree, man. GameStop got closed in all of PA, and I think their business license revoked? Holy shit. That's wild. Liquor stores are essential, apparently. Well, you know. I made a version of your Breakfast Club drink with rum, coconut milk, and Cheerios, and it was fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Deeply diseased. What a name at this time. Can you tell my bosses I'm not essential? I want to be locked indoors. Scoot screams. I would tell them. I will write a doctor's note for you. I can't do beer. That's why I do cocktails. This shutdown will probably kill GameStop. I find it shocking in the age of digitally delivered games that we even need a GameStop, but I don't know. I don't know enough about gaming to answer that question. One of the weirdest things I've seen so far is the TV station I work at locking 2 full teams in the newsroom. They live there now. They live there now. Wow, that is crazy. Thankfully, other grocery stores besides Whole Foods deliver around me. Ditto and Tom. I work at a university and they're guaranteeing we'll get paid, so that's nice. That is nice. Liquor stores also sell grocery stores in some spots, so they kind of are. Yeah, that's true. My mom works for a printing company and her work hours haven't changed. Her boss hasn't said anything about people going home. She's actually working overtime. My God. Dr. Toboggan, MD. Who's Dr. Toboggan? I remember Dr. Toboggan. What's that from? It is on slow mode. Scoot. The only reason GameStop is calling themselves essential is because they close down, they're done. Their company is basically living month to month. Exactly disorganized. Exactly. I just had to call my employer to tell him how unimportant I am. That's hilarious, Thrifty. I hope that's true. Otherwise, it's a funny joke. Used console games are real cheap on GameStop. In Seattle, there are no delivery times for available as Amazon Fresh from Whole Foods 2 blocks away for the next 3 days. So, Kalino 12, I had a friend who, yes, I agree with you, but I had a friend who basically refreshed the page until a delivery time became available, and that's how she got her groceries. I don't know if that'll work in your area. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but hey, man, this is America. You should continue to use the phrase sex toboggan. Pretty much all retail stores in Sweden have pickup or delivery. Oh, okay, well. Fun story. All these economic problems are endemic to capitalism. Hey, man, you didn't hear it here. Smart plays. Would you guys like an egg in these trying times? I have a few eggs, so I'm all right. You can share your egg with someone else. I have bought more alcohol during the quarantine than normal groceries. JJ, man, honestly and truly, and this is speaking from the perspective of internet drinker, man, you should rethink your priorities. Guys, if I go pee, will you still be here when I come back? Because I got to do that. Honestly, I need to eat lunch. I'm starving. As long as you don't take us with you. Well, I could with my phone. I'll be right back, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We will probably make one more drink, although I don't know what it's going to be yet. And then I'm going to have to end the stream because I've got other things I got to do today. But this has been fantastic. I'll be with you in... Give me 5 minutes. I'm back. Thank you for waiting. So it looks like everybody's still kind of hanging out here. So one of the thoughts I had when I went upstairs just now was that I keep telling people that you should make spritzes, you should make highballs. And why don't we make a couple of spritzes and highballs from whatever I've got lying around. This is that I Drink Mate seltzer maker I told you. I ordered this a little while ago, and I just got it a few days ago. It's pretty neat. So I actually ordered an additional 3 bottles for it. So here they are. This is one of them. And I've got cold, flat water in here. You have this special top that you put on it. And that's it. There's a quarter turn. And then it slides in here, has like a little magnetic lock. Boom. And let's put this on the close-up. And now you can see. And we'll just do this until it ventilates. And I'll probably hit it again. I'll probably hit that again. And maybe what I'll do is I'll pop this off, and now I'll shake it a little. Let's try it, because like that agitation, that little bit of energy that I'm adding to this system helps the water absorb CO2. Of course, the colder the water is, the better. This water's been in my fridge overnight. I'll hit it one more time. Okay, that's pretty good. So we've got our seltzer in here now, and what this has that the other machines don't have is it's got this little guy. So if we just crank this off, I mean, first off, I don't think we could, but it would explode. It would just explode. So you can actually vent it safely. To remove the excess atmospheric pressure, and then pull that. And then we put a regular cap on it, and we've got our seltzer. And this is a great thing for a time of quarantine, because now I'm not so likely to run out of water. I should say I'm not so likely to run out of seltzer. So I've got my seltzer. So how do you make a highball? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Highball and spritzes. It's pretty simple. You take a spirit or a liqueur, and then you add water, and then we'll add seltzer, and we'll figure out how to make it taste good. We'll make it taste good. So Chambord. Some people talked about Chambord. So this would be like a raspberry spritz, right? I don't see any absinthe here. I feel like in a perfect world, I would want something herbal, like an absinthe, to go with this. Okay, I am going to crack up the ice, put that in my glass. Just kind of build up my glass here. Bit much. With the absinthe, yeah, so if I had absinthe handy, I would probably just do a very light amount, just a dash. And actually, in fact, that might actually be absinthe. Hold on, we'll find out. Oh, it is. Woo! That's St. George. No. That's something else. 2 ounces or 1 ounce of our stuff here. Boom. Put that in the glass, because the idea here, I mean, first off, Chambord is low proof to begin with. That's the only reason I would go high on it, and the reason I would go low is because it's expensive and I don't want to waste it. A little Chambord and seltzer. I think think what is Chambord? It's raspberry. I think maybe I should have one more back here. Make some quick little lime eighths. Okay. And just squeeze that in there. Boom, like so. Top it up with seltzer. Maybe a bit more. And then I would just kind of let it work it all together. And there we go, a Chambord highball. Honestly, not bad. It's a refreshing drink now. It's not overpoweringly raspberry. Might need a little bit more sour. Might need a bit more lime juice or lemon juice to kind of balance the sweetness of that Chambord. But you know what this reminds me of is like a raspberry truffle. Like that would come in a chocolate box. Like you bite into the chocolate thing and it's got the raspberry thing. So maybe what really... I bet you throw some chocolate bitters in there if you had them. Of course, these are drinks that we're making with what we have available. I bet that would really balance out well. And there you go. That's how to use your Chambord when you're making quarantinis. Doesn't need any extra sweetness. Honestly, there's a little bit of chocolateness to it already. Campari. Campari and soda, same idea. I mean, this is actually a staple for some people. In the case of Campari, I'm going to do a full 2-ounce pour. Okay. So with a Campari spritz, a lot of times you would make this with Prosecco or with champagne. We don't have that, but we do have a little Noilly Prat. So, you know, a splash of Noilly Prat. Not necessary, but why not? We got it. I'm going to go 4 bar spoons, just looking at how much is coming out here. Okay. And top of seltzer. Or club soda if you prefer. And if you didn't have the vermouth, that's fine. You don't need it. But somebody was asking about what can I do with Campari. That's what you can do with it. It's delicious. Fantastic. Fantastic. You know, if you had an orange handy, and I don't, But I do have this piece of grapefruit. Almost impossible to do this. But, you know, if you had like a piece of citrus, of course I'm now embarrassing myself because of what you can't do is what I just try to do. You squeeze that over top, even better. If you find that a bit dry, I brought it down. Where did I put it? Ah, there it is. A little simple syrup. No reason you can't sweeten something. 4 bars for this is what it was. For the vermouth, if you're going back to that. And now I've sweetened it a little bit. Oh, so much more drinkable now for me, personally, because the bitterness is cut a bit, but you still get the bitter oranges, the grapefruits, the things that are components of Campari. This is delicious. It has a bitter flavor at the end that kind of reminds you, this is an aperitif. And also, for the record, if you've ever been to one of those places where Coca-Cola will let you try all their weird flavors, I'm a person who likes Beverly, so keep that in mind. Now, somebody asked me, what can I do with Fernet Branca? So I'm going to tell you what you can do with it. You can do the exact same thing. You take this glass, you take Fernet Branca. Take, well, let's let the Campari out of here. Let's put, I don't know, an ounce of Fernet Branca in here. There we go. And there's a couple ways to skin this cat, but I'm going to throw in a few dashes of Angostura. Why? Because Coca-Cola and Angostura have pretty similar flavor profiles. There are better bitters you could use. If you have El Macule Tiki bitters from The Bitter Truth, go with that. If you have chocolate bitters, go with that. You know what? And maybe, what the heck, a dash or 3 of orange bitters. Okay? And now some cracked ice. Moxie is made with gentian, which is a bittering agent. Yes, gentian is a prime ingredient in a lot of bitters. There's a bittering agent is a specific thing. That's a real thing to be a bitter agent, as opposed to something that has a flavor that is divisive. It goes beyond that. Okay, I got some little chips of ice that are frozen in my hand now. Let's hit that with... I got a feeling too, you know what, we're going to want, because Coca-Cola is sweet, right? And we're going to want, just to lengthen this flavor, with probably a fair amount of simple syrup. I'm going to go with something like 4 bar spoons. And yeah, guys, I've had a few drinks here, at least one that you've seen me do. And I'm feeling it, so this is getting a little weird. Okay. Mix that up. Okay. And take one of my lime twists. As we overflow this drink. And cheers. That is indescribably delicious. It was a lovely drink. It has a tart and earthy, lovely flavor profile. As long as you like gentian. Gentian. As long as you like Fernet Branca, you're going to love it. You will have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes. Wow! I don't know what any of that means. So if you already are kind of a fan of Fernet, you're going to like it. If you're not, look, here's the thing. I want to admonish you to do this. Think about the flavors and things like you would music. I hope. You taste it, and your immediate response is, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Instead, try to say, what does this taste like? What does this remind me of? What is this about? Try to pull it apart. It's sweet and earthy. It has a kind of a musty, heavy flavor up front. And then that kind of yields a minty skunkiness. And there's a little bit, just a hint of distant orange throughout. There's a way to approach this drink. It is not the same, a cocktail, a quality mixed drink, a mixed drink in general. You may not want to approach it with the same frame of mind that you might an actual bottle of Coca-Cola, which it asks nothing from you. All it says is, hey baby, I'm sugar water. This is going to be easy to shoot down your throat. If that's your only metric, if that's the only thing that you can enjoy, you're going to have a very limited bandwidth on drinks and foods that are appealing to you. Something like this does require a little bit of highfalutin, highbrow snobbery. It does. You have to stop and think for a second. Ooh, this is interesting. I don't know that I've had anything quite like that. You may not have an immediate, instinctual response of, I love this and I want to eat it. But if you think about it, how many foods are acquired tastes? I mean, probably the only foods that aren't are like pancakes and candy, right? The more you drink this, the more I'm liking it. And it's good. It is a good highball. This is a good approximation of a Fernet and Cola. Fernet y Cola. It's Fernet. It's some bitters, Ango, and orange. It is a little sweetness, a twist of lime. Lime is actually, you may not realize this or not, but it's one of the dominant flavors in Coca-Cola. I'm enjoying this very much. I'm going to take this with me after we wrap. But I could see somebody who's the first time they've had Fernet Branca, and they're going to say, oh, I hate that. I urge you to get past that. I think that you really have to think. If it helps you, assault pineapple. If it helps you, think of yourself as a fop. The final things in life. I urge you to taste beyond that, because a lot of people say, oh, why does Greg love everything he tries on the show? Well, I mean, because I'm not reviewing drinks that way. I'm not thinking about, is this fried chicken? Because I like fried chicken. I do. I love fried chicken. Like, I'm not looking for one precise thing. This very narrow, oh my God, my hands are so dry from washing them that my hand has opened up and started bleeding. I'm bleeding. I'm not looking for one very narrow range on flavor profiles that only that is acceptable. I'm looking for the whole orchestra, as opposed to just the oboe or just the violin section. And you got to wrap your head around that. That does take some... there's no way around it. You're going to have to be a bit of a pompous ass. And then you'll have it. It's the same way you develop an appreciation for fine art, or modern art, or experimental art, or for anything. You're just gonna, it takes a little bit of work. But once you cross that threshold, you can't go back. You're becoming like a new person. And you'll have this broadened perspective and taste. So next, what if we've done Chambol, we've done Campari. What else can we make a highball out of? I mean, obviously we can make a highball out of scotch, but what about this weird-ass lychee liqueur that I bought on a complete whim? This is Soho lychee liqueur, and it even says it right here. You guys can see it in the split. Imitation lychee liqueur. Do you see that? Isn't that crazy? The audio is shite. Oh, I'm so sorry, Max Ryder. I wonder why. I mean, that smells like passion fruit, to be perfectly honest. It smells a lot like passion fruit, which is tart, so I'm expecting this to be tart. Let's say we start with a 1 ounce pour of our lychee liqueur. We've got tart. We've got our sour covered, probably based on that. Let's, and if you don't, you don't, but if you do, you do. Throw a couple dashes of Ango. Actually, you know what I think would be good in there? Peychaud's. Brings a little different flavor. It's going to bring some anisette, mainly. And then we're going to crack some ice and top it up with seltzer. You can, if you think a little bit about the stuff that's in your liquor cabinet, you can do this with anything. So I want to make a drink that tastes like my favorite colors. I want something deep, silken reds, pale cream, silvery greens, berry stained fuchsias, and tawny earth. Oh my God, that's what a combination there, eyes. Get yourself, I already know how to make this. This is going to be a very advanced whiskey sour. To make that drink, you're going to need an egg white. You're going to need... hold on a second. I got to hold on that. Silver. All right, here's what you got, Isaacson. Try this drink for you. If you can get all these ingredients, I'm going to tell you what you make. You're going to take... your shaker. Into your shaker, you're going to put a ½ ounce of Passoa passion fruit liqueur. You're going to put 1 ounce of cask strength bourbon. I'm thinking Booker's bourbon. You're going to put a ½ ounce of yellow chartreuse, and you're going to throw in 1 egg white. You're going to shake the living hell out of that dry, and then you're going to shake it wet. Oh, I'm sorry. And you're going to also throw in 1 ounce of simple syrup as well. Right. 1 ounce of simple syrup, ½ ounce of Passoa, 1½ ounces of strong bourbon, Booker's ideally, and a ½ ounce of, what did I say? I said Passoa bourbon. Oh, yellow chartreuse, 1 ounce of simple syrup, 1 egg white, dry shake it with ice, and then top it with a dry red wine, or potentially the right sherry. And I think you've got the drink you're looking for. When I say top, I mean like a float. And I mean like a ½ ounce to 1 ounce. And this is our lychee spritz. Not bad. A little dry, a little tart. I think that could use a drop of sweetness for sure to make it taste a bit more palatable, a little bit more loam. Pour a little bit there. Pardon. I should always pour it over here. That's where my mark is. Getting used to this thing, guys. I'm getting used to this format. I'm getting used to cameras that don't have people moving them for me. Normally when I do something like that, Bernard and Jazz are right there, Johnny on the spot, picking up the shot. Okay, here we go. Yeah, a little bit of sweetness helps that a lot. Just a little. You don't need a ton. A quarter ounce, half an ounce. Because fruit has sweetness in it. And when we take that lychee and separate it from its sweetness, it doesn't taste like lychee anymore. It tastes like weird citrus. But when you put the sweetness back in, it starts to taste like lychee. Mint Fresh Sim, my God, I've done so many streams. It's the belly cam. Fuck y'all. I'll fix that. Hell yeah, that's really tasty. That's real tasty. So, oh, it's okay, my French. I'm just fucking with you. That's what I'm saying. Anything weird like that, just think about what's in there. Think about how to balance that. You know, a lot of those, I was like, you know what? We need bitters here. We need citrus here. We need sweetness here. Plus length, plus seltzer. And that's how you're going to get... you're gonna be able to use that stuff. That's like that is what a quarantini is, I think. Using what you have available because you haven't bothered to drink it before. Now, what I'm doing here, this is something I drink almost every day. This is seltzer and a few dashes of Angostura bitters. I mean, and by a few, I mean like 10 or 20. There it is. Any flies floating in there? No. Delicious. Absolutely. Can't beat it. You also do that one a lot. You know what, Magister? I can throw ice on it, but I don't need it. I mean, my seltzer is cold. This isn't something I make for anybody else. This is literally just something I'm going to have some seltzer now. I think I'll put some bitters in it. Would you say that single spirit highballs would be a great way to explore the tastes of a single spirit to better understand how to integrate it into more complex cocktails? Lord Inquisitor, I would say that it is a component of that process. I think that you have to keep in mind that... Excuse me, I have a bit of agita. I think you have to keep in mind that CO2, carbon dioxide, seltzer, bitters... seltzer, rather, has its own flavor, and it brings bitterness. It brings an acid on its own. So, yes, I do that. I do think it is, but I don't think it's the whole story on that spirit. Well, now that's not level. We can fix that. I do think that, like, it's really tough to quantify all this stuff into... you know, a set of rules. So much of this is down to, so much of this becomes instinct. So much of this becomes sort of feel. I don't do this as a science. For me, it's a lot about just like, I've drank a lot. I can't turn off the B cam. Thanks, Mayor. So much of this is that I've drank a lot of these things, I've mixed them a lot, and I know what's worked and what hasn't worked, and I'm kind of going on my gut. And honestly, where I get in trouble is when I try to take that and turn that into a set of rules to follow, you know? Like, if I'm honest, I would say that this has a little bit of saltiness to it. I think that the CO2, the carbon dioxide, brings a bit of saltiness, a bit. And do I want to balance that? Do I want to do something about that? Do I want to add a citrus to that? Yeah, why not? That's a great idea, you know? Throwing a twist in there is not a bad idea. But once I've identified, it got out of my hands and now it's in there. It's in there. But once I've identified that, then I can do something about it. So identify what's in there first, as accurately as you can. A lot of times the best way to balance, I find, saltiness is with a little sugar. But, you know, I don't want to turn this into a sugar syrup soft drink. I want to keep it on its bitter end. Would you ever consider making a cocktail with chocolate liqueur and cinnamon syrup? What do you think that'd be like? I think that'd be a dessert drink, first off, right away. I'm saying that's got to be a dessert drink, which means we shouldn't be afraid of it being sweet. And I think it would be delicious. Chocolate and cinnamon? Hell fucking yes. Lord Inquisitor Tulip, I would throw coffee in there, by the way, as well. I would go with coffee. There's a place near me that they make a dessert restaurant, and it's they call it Coffee and Donuts. And what it really is they make some house-made churros, and then they have a coffee-infused whipped cream that you dip them in. Oh God, it's good. This has been my understanding of it. I also look forward to running a Dark Heresy game, and use the voice you seem to read all my comments in for Inquisitor. This has been my understanding of it too, and I also look forward to reading a Dark Heresy game and use the voice you use to read all of my comments. Yeah, Dark Heresy is my favorite Warhammer 40k game. Greg from HTD, would you choose Mr. Black for that? I might. Duo 8EU, you run a DSLR mirrorless as your primary cam? You could probably set focus and then turn off autofocus. Yeah, that is, all of the cameras in here are Lumix G7s or G9s. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then my main camera over by my desk is a GH5S. Which I actually purchased for other purposes, but now it's a webcam. I mean, it can still go do other things. Well, one, if I'm not mistaken, Dave Arnold actually only suggests adding dashes of saline to every drink with fruit juices in it. And in that case, I don't think it's bad advice. I just think it's a lot of artifice. It's more parts. It's more moving parts to the drink. Would I say that you should? Why not? Would I put that into my video and say that you must? No, I wouldn't. Because it's just going to dissuade, from my perspective, it's gonna scare people away. It's just one more step. It's one more ingredient. It's gonna keep people from trying this at home. That's like an advanced thing. You've got your spec, and now you want to embellish it. Yes, of course. But from a strict food sciences perspective, absolutely. Adding a little bit of salt to anything, particularly something with some citrus in it, with some acid to it, it's only going to enhance those flavors. It's going to bring them out. There's flavors you can't taste until you add salt. You try to make some kale, or not kale. Take some chard. Take some Swiss chard, some rainbow chard. You clean it up. You cut it up just right. You get some extra virgin olive oil. Throw it in the pan. You get a little bit hot, just hot enough to saute barely, because saute is really hot. Chop up some garlic. Throw that in there. Chop up a shallot. Throw that in there. Throw in your Swiss chard. Steam it all up. Cook it real quick. Bland. Just enough to turn it. To get it to express its color and fragrance, and then you serve it and you eat it, and it tastes like nothing. It tastes like nothing that you put in the pan until you hit it with salt, and now your body can taste it. That is what I'm saying. Is that like there's a real truth there that basically our olfactory system works on salt, and so if you want to make your drink taste like your drink, the salt is going to be huge. Is it necessary in a lot of these drinks? No, they were all recipes formulated in without the idea of universal salt additions, so you can definitely get away with that. If you don't know, there's an average person can can't tell Saline would be there in a side-by-side anyway. Thrace Fulton. Yeah, probably, maybe. Answer to my earlier question, Greg likes cookies as much as he likes drinking. Oh, hell yes, I do. As a matter of fact, Andrew Hackard, I'm very proud to say that under the conditions of this quarantine, I have prepared what is the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever made. It was just some stupid recipe that I looked up on the internet, followed that recipe, sort of. I think it was really about cook time. I think my oven is a disaster. I think that when I set it for 300 degrees, it comes out at 500 degrees. So it was like, okay, we're going to cook these in 3 minutes. They're done. And it was just pulling them out when they're done. An egg white in the chocolate cinnamon coffee thing, sure. But honestly, once you go to coffee, why not just go to dairy? Sniff theory. I would do that shaken heavy cream float. Ever played around with Miracle Berries? I haven't. Crundlematic. I just haven't done it yet. Illunatara. Have you think about custom sub sounds like a cork bottle opening? I can do that. Okay. I'll look into that. Stormy Weber. Well, guilty of that. Made focaccia today. Nice octopus. Yeah, I was thinking that or heavy cream. Great suggestion. I thank you. Can we get a how to bake with the best cookies and drink combos? Game question. Do you only play PC or console? I don't have a console at present time. I have a PC. So at the moment, I play PC only. And truly, I don't play that much. I only play games. Like, if you see me playing, I'm playing games. That's it. I don't have any, like, offline video game time. I still think the Star Wars Buzz Button drink is the most wild thing, and I agree, JJ, man. Sabering sub sounds, nice. You don't have to bake Oreos and milk. Yeah, we need a cookie tutorial, please. Well, you know what? Alpouge, I don't even trust myself to replicate this perfect recipe. And further, we froze a bunch of it, so I'd have no need to replicate it. I think we're going to live with this recipe for a minute. I used to play Civ. Yeah, Lord Inquisitor. What country and leader do I prefer? I don't know. I mean, honestly, Lord Inquisitor, it felt like it was outside of the spirit of the Civilization game to play without just it being random. 2020 edition. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of past drink episodes, I made a little blast last night, and I blasted my lobes. That's what I like to hear, disorganized.net. God, that game is going to be a shit show. Why is that? Sorry if I'm plugging another channel as loud, but Preppy Kitchen on YouTube has amazing recipes for cookies and other desserts. Sounds good. It seems short-sighted. No one made that many cookies. Yeah, we froze a bunch of the dough. Do you like COD Warzone? I do, Fire Blaze. I think that could be a game that I play more. I think it's very silly. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand, but I'm disappointed in the fact that, like, this game, which is ultimately a very elaborate, numismatically, a very elaborate game of, like, tag or freeze tag with, like, the skin of a modern Warzone setting kind of superimposed over it, because it's nowhere even close to a simulation of actual warfare. I guess I'm disappointed and amused at the same time that is necessary to make that game palatable to the public, but because I just feel like the world is too violent and like we really fucking don't need to fetishize warfare any more than we already do. But yeah, on the whole, I find it to be fun and silly. Very, 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 very silly. I've got a spaghetti pie baking. What in the hell is that? An Oreo cocktail sounds like it would be delicious. That was the most fun I've seen you had in a game. Yeah, it was fun, Dr. Doom. Have you played Europa Universalis 4 or Crusader Kings 2? I haven't. I haven't played either of those. I want to see Greg set up VR and play some games like Half-Life Alyx and Beat Saber. Yeah, I'm worried about VR. I'm afraid I'd be addicted. So, ever make a drink based on ouzo? I can never figure out how to balance that strong of an anise. Well, Crundlematic, I haven't specifically, but I would say look at anything that involves absinthe. It should work fine. I've resolved to doing a lot of baking, and bourbon drinking while stuck at home. And how are you holding up, Greg? Working the Wolf? I'm holding up just fine. Max Rider loves spaghetti pie. I don't know what the fuck spaghetti pie is. I better look that up. I have played Doom 2016, the original remake of Doom. I haven't played the new Doom. Just in the bar, throwing bottles everywhere. Hey Greg, what's your favorite rum drink? My favorite rum drink is probably a Mai Tai, or a daiquiri, or a Queen's Park Swizzle. Good day to you, sir. I love your work. Hi, champion. What are some non-alcoholic drinks that you enjoy that might be lesser known? Non-alcoholic drinks. Ooh. Tea, coffee, water, sort of bitters and seltzer. I made cheesecake brownies, but they came out a lot richer than I can handle. Oh, send them my way, Sniff Theory. Send them my way. Cold spaghetti mixed with an egg and cheese custard. Pour into a baking dish and bake. Ooh. Excuse me, guys. Roland, that's, oh my god, that's wild. Where do you live? Where is that normal? That seems like some Midwestern shit. I don't know why. Love this setup. Hell yeah! Rum and Coke, VR session after a marathon of HTD episodes. Fuck that. I'll be thrown up all over my place. What's your opinion on barkeeping, acrobatics, and juggling? You talking about flair bartending? That's awesome. I'm not into it. It's not my thing. I don't know how to do it. I'm very bad at it. But I think that is a valid expression of the art of mixology. Pittsburgh. The gateway to the Midwest. I made London fogs at home using a frothing wand to whip up heavy cream, sugar, and vanilla extract. Vanillin is better, actually, and add it to Earl Grey tea. Ooh, cat bronchitis. That sounds delicious. Greg's bartending flair is dropping a glass on his toe. Fair enough. I am learning to flair, and it's so fun. Coctopus? Yes, I bet it is. Add some meat stuff for extra kick, bacon, or good ham work. Speaking of which, I made a huge batch of chicken soup in my pressure cooker last night, and it is calling my name. I need to eat lunch. Late lunch, apparently, 4 o'clock. Ghetto Puma. What's up, Greg, you beautiful specimen? Yeah, I mean, you know, like a specimen, like in a petri dish. Greg, what would you say is a good scotch for a newbie? Oh, not this at all. Well, a scotch for a newbie, slumber, I would say either look at the Monkey Shoulder or any of your Highland scotches, like a Macallan, and not too expensive, because I think that for a newbie, something like a Speyside or whatever, it's just those phenols, those phenyline tastes, those smoky, peaty, salty, iodine flavors are going to be really off-putting. Whereas something like a Highland Scotch, it's like warm and nutty and probably aged in a sherry cask. It's just comforting. It's just a very different kind of thing. But yeah, I think Monkey Shoulder is right up there. I think Lefroy would be a disaster, Thrifty Walrus, and you know it. Just paid $10 delivery for QFC. Amazon be damned. I don't know what QFC is. Glenmorangie is nice for a single shot. Monkey Shoulder, to be sure. Absinthe and Scotch are on my next try alcohols. Well, JJ, man, regarding absinthe, I would advise you to try somebody else's until you commit to a bottle. And if you're going to commit to a bottle, make sure you like black licorice. If you don't, and a lot of people don't, I would encourage you not to spend your money on a bottle of absinthe. You're going to hate it. I can't put absinthe in anything that my wife is going to drink. Islay whiskeys are hard to understand for beginners. I agree with that. The Macallan 20-year-old is a great Scotch, but that seems like it's old. That's expensive. QC is a Kroger grocery store. Good to know. Thanks. I love your videos. Been binging them for days. Thank you, thank you, thank you. By the way, in regards to the other day, nobody in Oregon pronounces it Oregon. I love black licorice, says Eyes of Sin. Me too. Quality Food Center owned by Kroger. Greg, ever make a kombucha-based drink? I haven't. I ate kombucha once. I bought it on a lunch break. I bought a jar of kombucha. Everybody was about it. And then I drank what was like snot. It was like literally coagulated, slimy snot. It was disgusting. I threw it away. Go to an absinthe bar because it's so much fun. The first Scotch was the famous grouse. Yeah. What the heck is Quina Liero Dior? I used it a while ago and put it on my shopping list, but I can't for the life of me find a cocktail to use it in. Quina Liero Dior. Right here. This is a modern recreation of Quina Lillet. So in the in Casino Royale, when he makes the Vesper Martini, he calls for half a measure of Quina Lillet. Quina Lillet. It's Lillet aromatized wine with Akina, with quinine, with tonic. So it's somewhere between vermouth and tonic water. Now, they don't make that anymore. Lillet now only makes Lillet Blanc. They don't make Quina Lillet anymore. This Quina Liero d'Or is a modern recreation of, as close as we can get, to Quina Liero. Quina Lillet. Now, of course, Lillet Blanc claims potential spam. Of course, Lillet Blanc claims that they haven't changed their recipe in 100 years or something like that. It's bullshit, because it doesn't have quinine in it anymore. So if you want to make a Vesper Martini, and of course this has some sediment from the quinine, I'm just shaking it up right now because I have an OCD thing. When I see a drink that's a bottle that's sedimentated, even if I'm not going to use it right now, I got to shake it. Yeah, this is the stuff you would use in a proper Vesper today, year of our Lord 2020. Answer on speaker. We have a local liquor store that is hiring to prep deliveries to go out. I might apply for the gig. Low risk regarding human contact, and the manager is a wise elderly lesbian woman who gives great motherly advice. Oh, okay. How is the resolution so high? I can see HD beard. I mean, it's 1080p. I don't know. You got it, Bob. Random, but did you get that deer yourself? Absolutely not. This deer says October 1956, Canada, and it was taken by my wife's grandfather in that year. When he no longer had any use for it, when he passed, the family no longer wanted it, and I said, well, hell, man, don't put that at the curb. I'll take those things. And so that's how I got all this taxidermy. 10 out of 10, that lightning. So the trick here is I've got a key light here. And you guys want to see what I'm doing here? Hold on a second. We'll throw up the connected. I'll give you guys the quick tour of what I'm looking at. Okay. See if this works. Sorry. So that's the thing about the Roman camera. I get like one connect to it and then it breaks. But basically, I've got a key light here, which is a big soft box, an Intelitech 2 foot by 2 foot soft panel. And then over here, I've got a Yongyo YN300L, which is like a cheapy LED panel. And that's actually pointing at the wall. It's not even pointing at me, just for fill. I turn it off and see what happens. Oh, I stuck the remote for it. Pocket? It's a standard 3-point lighting. Key light, fill, and then up here, just out of frame, is another little 1 foot by 1 foot soft box from Intelitech, providing a hair light. If we turn off the key, if we turn off the fill, you'll see exactly what happens. And all of a sudden now, it's very dark on this side, right? It makes such a big difference. It also, I hate this light because there's a little fan in it, so it makes noise. And I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can. And I would love to replace it with one that doesn't have a little fan in it, but, money. I don't have controls for those from remote. I can't turn them on and off and show you what that would be like. I want to make alcohol-free mojito for my teenage cousin. Do you have any advice on what to substitute the rum with? That's a tough question, Fireblaze. So, I mean, the mint and simple syrup and seltzer are kind of no-brainers, and I would start there. I mean, the first question I would ask is, do you need to substitute the rum? Tried Jameson cold brew? No, I haven't. The mic is I get these like $30 Fi-Fine USB mics, Fi-Fine USB mics. They're so cheap. I would love to go to Sennheiser's or any other kind of shotgun mic, but then that is going to cost like $300 a microphone, and I'm going to need multiple microphones. Plus, I'm going to need the a capture card basically for all these XLR mics, whereas these are just all USB. Yeah, up the quantity of lime and sugar is a good choice. RK in Dubai makes a rum-like spirit as alcohol. Pretty good luck finding that here in the States. Honestly, I like the natural fill from the key bouncing back at you, but I get that you're probably not going for a dramatic look. Yeah, not too dramatic. I mean, I can turn that on and off, up and down. I think that you don't need to worry about the rum. If you do need to, it's possible, and I don't know how to get this in there, that a little bit of banana might be the answer, but that's kind of based on the rums that I like, and if you're okay with a little bit of alcohol, I mean a minute trace amount, some certain bitters might be the way to go. Well, $300 for Sennheiser 416s would be cheap because they're $1,000 microphones, but there's something called a Divinity S2 that I was looking at last night that would be like a alternative for much less money. I think they're $349 per unit, and I was thinking that I would need 3 to begin with if we were going to switch away from these microphones. Well, guys, we've been doing this for 4 hours. I think I gotta stop. I gotta go eat something. When am I gonna make a clarified milk punch? That's really like Christmassy stuff, but yeah. No experience of Pappy. You should actually do some work today. Ha ha ha. Yes, I should. But you know, this is part of my job. Go eat, says Meredith. She is wise. Greg live streams his lunch. If I could, I would. Thank you for the lovely stream. Have a good time. Thank you for the drink suggestions. Guys, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for spending your afternoons with me and your mornings. It has been a blast. We made some drinks. We talked about martinis. We got all over the place. We invented a new drink, Wyatt's Word. I loved it. It was super duper good. And this has been just a lot of, we talk a little bit about like making spritzes from the stuff you've got lying around the back of your liquor cabinet. I will probably be talking about that a little bit tomorrow on my YouTube stream, although I'm still kind of sorting that out. I gotta check my email about some prospects, some pokers I've got in the fire. And you guys have been the best fans and the best friends and the best audience. And thank you so much for being here. So I hope that you are remaining indoors and staying safe and sound and practicing social distancing as you must. There you go, Meredith. And doing everything that you should do and staying safe. And that, you know, we're going to get through this thing, guys. One way or another. Thank you all so much for hanging with me. Thank you all so much for hanging with me. And thank you for being a friend. And I will see you guys tomorrow on YouTube. I'll probably be here too. But thanks. Bye.